Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Monday edition, bright and early Monday afternoon, I should say, as we are in a Monday edition of Running Point. I'm obviously not Ron Podesta. Poe has the day off. I'm filling in. Anthony Hartwig, the normal co-host, which now my plan to rule Running Point has finally come to fruition, as I'm in the host chair, and I'm joined for the first hour at least by DJ Yoakley. We have a lot to talk about when we come to recapping Week 6 of high school football, and then talking about YSN's kind of plan going forward when we get into playoff talk next week. DJ, how you doing on a Monday?
Well, I'm doing great on a Monday. You're saying bright and early. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's noon.
It's early for me.
You do this every day.
I'm a night owl, and I'm late to bed, early to rise.
You've been hustling, man, all weekend. The content, the social media on YSN, it was on point, my friend. So we still have some stories we're working on putting up from the weekend. People don't realize that, when it comes down to it, it's me and you, brother.
Right.
It's me and you.
It's a full steam ahead on stories between Saturday and Sunday. We have so many games. We had 23 games this weekend.
Yep.
And we eventually get stories up on all of them.
Well, I think did we end up with 23? I thought we were over that, but I could be wrong. But I mean, reality is we have guys that write it for us, and naturally, especially some of them have a little bit of a drive ahead of them on Friday nights. So they get back, and it's not the easiest thing to do is to fire back up the engine. So we let them, give them a little bit of leeway into Saturday and sometimes into Sunday, and then leads to Monday. so here we are putting up stories. So, but you know what? That's what we do. It's an anchor. Our anchor is what? Broadcasting the games and making sure we have great stories and interviews. And then everything else, I don't want to say it's secondary, but it's naturally, it comes after. It's a branch.
One of my favorite things about putting the stories up is just getting to see the wonderful work our photographers do and getting to, say, add picture and then having the plethora of great shots. And sometimes it's hard to pick what shot to use.
It is. And that's another part of our growth is we reached out, you and I sat down and we said, what is it's great to have a great story. However, the pictures make the website just look so good. So we've teamed up with great photographers along the way, Gary Leininger, Sean Jordan. Now we have Charles Marsh and his band of photographers over at the Mahoning Valley Sports Network. And, they do such a good job. Diana Oatridge is I'm a big fan of her work. And it's fun to be a fan, right? When we started this, we started as fans, and we still are fans. We're fans of these kids. We're fans of each other, quite honestly, we are. We're just each and every person and team we bring in. We're fans of them, so it's fun to watch. It's fun to be fans of ourselves sometimes and say, "Wow, did you see that picture? I mean, that was incredible."
And isn't it funny how Sean always gets the perfect sky for his pictures?
My dude, he's unbelievable when it comes to stuff like that. Our photographers have an eye. And listen, I tried to be a photographer for one game. Didn't work out so well.
It's not exactly point and shoot. A lot of people think it's just point and shoot, but you have to kind of know the rule of thirds and where to put people, where to frame it. And there's a difference when a professional photographer takes a picture, you can kind of tell the difference.
You can. And we're blessed enough to have them, and they work for us on every week, and they do great work, and you can see it all, collectively or one at a time on ysn.smugmug.com, and you can buy your picture. That's what I love about this is we're giving the opportunity for parents to put their phones and their cameras down and just take it in. I mean, the biggest thing, especially as a new dad, what I get is you're going to miss these days. You're going to miss these days. And we as a society don't have an opportunity to soak things up. I mean, look at any big any big event or any big something that's going on. You see a bunch of phones up instead of just taking it in,
Right.
being in the moment, being present.
Because everyone feels like they want to have that memory
Forever. But I feel like you're getting about 60% of that moment as opposed to being all in. And you know how we're all in here. So we're trying to give you opportunities to be two places at once. We're trying to give you opportunities to be one place, which you're typically not allowed, especially during COVID. And now we're giving the opportunity to parents, friends, family, everybody to put down their phones and to just take in the moment and be a fan. And that's what I'm most proud of is we continue to push the envelope, so to speak, on what we do, not only on broadcast, but here on the network. And people love it. And this really is, like, when we were coming up with what the name should be early on, I wanted it to be for the fans. And that's kind of why you bought in. This isn't like corporate society. This isn't, you're not going to see us wearing ties unless we go to the Emmys. But,
He's not kidding. The sole reason I reached out to YSN 3 years ago was just because I was a fan of my alumni and seeing what you were doing for them. I wanted to be a part of it. And that's how it evolves.
And, we get a little bit of flack here and there for not being everywhere, but we're growing and we're trying. I mean, I got an email today. Hey, can you do more of this school's games? Mm-hmm. We will try. We just need a little heads up and a little help. People don't realize that football, it's relatively, and I say this, we're relatively covered.
Right.
But other sports like volleyball and soccer, we work on skeleton crews. A lot of times it's yourself, myself, Quinn, EB. We get a couple guys that are here and there, but it's you and I, buddy.
The unfortunate problem is volleyball is always during the week, and people got stuff going on during the week. So it's harder to tell someone, hey, go do a volleyball game on a Tuesday night or whatever.
And you just never know when people are playing.
Right.
It's football. It's going to be Friday or Saturday, and you can create your week around it. Volleyball is a little different. Soccer's a little different, and we get the same thing in baseball and softball, and obviously basketball. A little bit more structured than the others, but it's not Football Friday. It's not centered around it. You and I look at it, we go, okay, this is the easiest part of our schedule is a Friday and Saturday. However, it is the most hectic.
Right, because both of us this Saturday woke up early to go do volleyball right after a long night of, trying to get work done after football games. So,
I didn't have a voice. I did the best I could and thankfully I had an interview.
You had a heck of a game.
Unbelievable.
Down in East Liverpool at the Potter Fieldhouse. Wow.
Yeah.
Salem East Liverpool go to 5.
And you feel for Salem because they left it all on the floor. Mm-hmm. But East Liverpool's a different level of good. You know what I mean? They are one of those fringe teams from being good and great, and they take steps forward and backward this year. And that's one of the things that Coach Kiger, I'm sure, wants to establish is they are a great team. They just have to believe in it. And I'll be honest, that second set, and I'm interested to see how Coach Costel responds when you ask her the question. She's the first one, right? 12:50,
right.
Because this is like an all volleyball show for the most part,
yeah.
and that's huge because you want to talk about where the spotlight is. We realize we're part of it. It's football, but you and I had a conversation when Ron said he wasn't going to be here, and we said let's do volleyball. Let's show volleyball the love that it deserves. And yeah, it might be one show, but you know what? At least we're getting it out there.
It's better than no shows.
That's it. And they deserve as much spotlight because, just as we talk about it all the time, they don't put in any less work than anybody else. In fact, they put in just as much, if not more sometimes.
The funny thing is that when you talk volleyball, they don't have like the practice times because a lot of times they're playing 4 games in a week. You can't go into the gym and adjust week to week. You have to adjust on the fly. That's what I love about it.
And let's be honest, Anthony, when they were talking about fall sports, a lot of times instead of saying fall sports, they said what? They said football.
Football.
They completely blew over volleyball and cross country and soccer. You name the sport, it's just football. We believe in more than just football.
We had the conversation. We were ready to go full bore on volleyball if the state made the decision that football was going to get axed. We were fully ready to say, we're all in on volleyball, and we're still all in on volleyball.
Yeah, we are, and that's the thing is this week's going to be a special week here. You and I have talked about it. We've been waiting for what, I don't know, to kind of get our legs under us with all this stuff that is the playoff football. But you, myself, Steve, Leslie, a couple other cast and characters here at YSN, it's going to be a big week because there's going to be a ton of player profiles, and I'm excited about that. We're going to keep the coaches' corners coming. We're going to get as many in-depth interviews as possible because we realize that Now that we have things staggered a little bit, now that we feel we have football under control, which has been a beast this year, by the way, I think we can get things going. I think we can get things rolling and get these players their interviews, because they've also had a little bit of an interesting path because they haven't been able to get the recruiting that they probably deserve in a lot of cases. So it's time to reach out. We've had player profiles this entire time. You've done an excellent job with the volleyball side of things and making sure that players get their time in the 15 minutes of fame, so to speak. And we're looking to do. I mean, you and I talked about it. Do we put the number out there? We put it into the universe?
Our goal was 50.
Let's do 50 this week.
Let's do 50.
I think we can do it. I think we can do it. If we put our heads down and we just roll it out, I think we can do it. So that's the goal, is to hit 50. And if we had hit 50, I think that there's some kind of celebration in tow. So be aware. I mean,
I think our celebration might be 2 days of playoff games.
Some of us might have to do 2 games on Saturday. But I mean, you talk about 2 days of playoff games. The OHSAA coming out today. I don't know if it's out yet, but we got the heads up about the fees, and we were told early that the fees would be low, and I blame myself for buying into that. We were told it was as low as $30. We were told it was as much as $170, and lo and behold, yesterday I reach out and the director of communications, Tim Street, who was on this show on Friday, said, "Here's the link. Enjoy," basically. And I looked it over, and I tried to find loopholes. I tried to find everything we could, because we do represent the schools and we do give 25% back to the schools. I think there should be somewhat of a leeway for the cost of it, and there isn't. He said, "You're not a school, you're not maintained by the school, da 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 da." And I understand, they're a business. Mm-hmm. So the final fee for us per game for football is $200. You multiply that by 20 games is what we're looking at, and you got a check coming from YSN to the OHSAA for $4,000 for week 1, not for the entirety of the playoffs.
And then people also have to understand we pay for the streaming.
We do.
Then we have to pay our announcers.
We pay our announcers, pay for the streaming, and obviously some of these folks we're going to have to pay for a little bit longer of a ride. Plymouth. As it stands right now, I'm going to Plymouth to follow the Lisbon Blue Devils. Our regular announcer is unable to make it because he's got to work, and naturally, if he leaves at 5:15, he's not going to get to Plymouth until 7:15, and there's just no way to do the game. So I volunteered, and I said, "Listen, nobody else wants it, I'll do it."
You pull the Hunger Games, a volunteers tribute.
Yeah, really, but I want to cover these teams, and I don't care. I mean, they have just as good a chance to upset the team, the higher seed that they're playing, than everybody else. And I believe in the Lisbon. I believe in all of our teams, unless they wouldn't be on the wall unless I did. And I'm excited. It's exciting to me to see new teams and opportunities. I mean, remember, Lisbon's the only team in Columbiana County that has a state championship, in the last, 95, right?
95.
So it's been a few years, 25 years. And I'm not saying that, they're going to win it, but they got a chance. They're in the playoffs, right. And as you throw all those records right out the window when these teams go to the playoffs. So, so we're going to bite the bullet. I mean, there's a lot of people. We had our executive meeting, went around the horn last night, kind of in a text format. Some people said no, we shouldn't do it, and others said yeah. And I looked back, and why we started this is because nobody else was willing or able to go the extra mile for these teams. And I don't care how many teams we get, we're going to go the extra mile, and we are going to be willing to make sure that they're seen or heard or, some capacity covered for their playoff games, for their regular games. So we're going to bite the bullet. We're going to write the check. I've got no problem doing it. It's a courtesy to our sponsors. It's a courtesy to the people that have believed in us since day one, 3 years ago. It's a courtesy to the people that have jumped on in the last, 6 or 7 months as teams to wear this wall behind me. It's incredible. It's we started with 4. We started with 28 doors being shut in our face, and now we're covering 20 playoff teams, in week 1 of the playoffs. And obviously there's a lot of teams that got by, so we'll probably write a nice hefty check week 2 as well.
A lot, but really there's so many teams on a bye that, you're going to have probably almost as many games in week 2 that you have in week 1.
I fully anticipate, $10,000 or $15,000 being turn it over to the OHSAA by the time it's over. But you know what? That's why we do what we do.
This is why we did pay-per-view, too.
Yep.
Because we anticipate, everyone makes the playoffs. We can't not cover football playoffs, and then we kind of knew that we might have to cushion ourselves.
Yeah, when it breaks down, and people get on our case about pay-per-view, the schools are getting $2.49 gross, right? So they're making more than actually we are. We make $1.83 after all is said and done per $9.99 that is purchased. So you add that up real quick, that $4,000 looks a little bit heftier. But luckily, we have great sponsors, donors. Like people have reached out and said, "Hey, how can I help? How can we get involved? We want to make sure that you go to our game." We're not looking for pity. We're not looking for a hand out. We're looking for a hand up. Like at this point, it's we're gonna make sure that anytime there's a team in there, we're gonna do our best. The only time I should say that we're not going to get to a game is if we don't have the announcers to get there. And there's one team that I feel really bad for. We're still scrambling to try to get that game covered, but if we don't, we can't. Traveling's tough, and not everybody's willing to hop in the car for the $25 that they get paid and go 2 hours one way and then come home 2 hours. It's tough, and sometimes it's not, but I look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as, man, I'm going to follow this team. They're going to appreciate that, and not that, you're in it for a free meal but like when you look at those coaches and you say, we're in it with you, we're in the trenches with you, you feel when they lose, you celebrate when they win. You and I talk about it all the time. How great was that feeling in South Range? We followed that team from pillar to post, and we felt like we were part of the team.
That was, as a South Range alum, and then getting to call that game in Columbus. There was almost nothing better than watching that team do what they did. They just got hot at the right time. And that's when you say anyone that makes the playoffs, you got a chance. They had a losing record going into the tournament. It didn't matter to them.
No, and I got a chance to see Cheney live and in person the other night. And, man, I feel bad for anybody that plays him.
Yeah, and I think that's why some of the area teams voted him a little bit high, because they understood Cheney doesn't mess around. Let's talk about Week 6. You were at that game, and you came back and you described it as one of the most unconventional football games you've ever seen.
It was a party.
A lot of crazy plays.
It was a party. It was really cool to see, because like you talk about unconventional, like that is a perfect word for it, because they just do things their way. It's a culture there, and I dug it. I look over at B. Miller, and he was my color guy, the other night, and they have a DJ that plays, and he's sitting there jamming, and I'm like, B, you feeling this? He's like, oh yeah, this is great. Usually it's like an awkward silence because there's no band. Right. Typically in the COVID era here that we're living in, and there was the DJ, and the DJ it just felt like it just gave life, and people were excited, and it was a very interesting game, and there was a lot of names that weren't there, present, that we thought we'd call all night. Petrosky was injured. I think I don't want to say he broke his hand without knowing completely, but his left hand was completely wrapped. So you got to think something. It was clubbed up, and they're not going to put him in a position where he can't throw. Right. It's his left hand. Did
he play in another position, or was he completely out?
He was in on defense. They were really trying to get him in on offense towards the end to get him a touchdown. I think he was in. There was one play, he went head over heels in the end zone. I still to this minute think he was in, but they marked him down at the 1, and he never got. He got another chance, but East just pinned their ears back and came right at him. So big win for Cheney. East continues to build their program. When you look at Cheney's schedule and who they've played and the scores that they've come out, they're right there, man. They're right there. And just like last year, they started slow, and they are probably one of the best teams in the area right now. And Billy McCartney will fight me on this, because when you look at a team, it doesn't come down to wins and losses. Especially this year, you look at a team and they got like a 20th seed. Look out. Like, they're going to start knocking off top teams, and top teams will be sitting at home watching Cheney look and blow through this bracket. So
I think when I've watched Cheney all week, the thing I know is they're so athletic. They just need to figure it out. Figure out the mental side of football, and they're starting to, and that's what's scary, because what hurt them earlier in the season was just the mental mistakes, shooting themselves in the foot. they've stopped that, and now the culture, they're buying into the culture, they're buying into the mental focus, and when you add athleticism that they have with mental focus, that's scary.
Listen, Jason Hewlett is not a normal sophomore quarterback. He's been watching, the QB1. He's been watching how things are done, how to handle himself, how to carry himself. He is super athletic, and if he doesn't beat you with his arm, he's going to beat you with his legs, and we got a lot of that around here. You look around and you see all the teams that are, dual threat quarterbacks. I mean, South Range, Struthers, Austintown Fitch. I mean, everybody now has pocket quarterbacks are just few and far between. Where now you've got these dual threat quarterbacks that are a dime a dozen, and they're really good, really good.
Especially in high school, most teams don't have 4 wide receivers that can just win one-on-one battles. So if you don't have a dual threat quarterback, you're kind of in hot water.
No, you're right, and we've seen teams that have the benefit of having a good tight end. South Range being one of them with Jake Gehring. When you can incorporate a tight end into your offense, that's a scary thing that most teams don't have. And who do you cover that tight end with? A DB?
Try to use a linebacker, but most linebackers try to cover Jake Gehring. Good luck.
Well, and that's the thing is Jake plays both ways. He's a D end, and then he's a tight end, and then most linebackers are your quarterback or your running back. So they're pulling double duty. They're literally running every play. So if you can stretch the field and have your quarterback running 40, 50 yards every play, he's going to be tired on the other side. And a lot of people don't look at that as part of the game plan, but South Range does. Wearing them down and finally just to the point where they are out. You have out-conditioned them, and they're toast. And they can't. Your mobile quarterback all of a sudden is one-dimensional, and that's when South Range, I've said it a million times, that's when South Range beats you, is when they make you one-dimensional.
And you've seen them a couple times. They use Gehring on those rub routes that probably really aggravate defenses. They'll call it a pick play, but offenses will call it the rub route, where he's a big body. He can clog up space, and that frees up their receivers.
And then you got to cover him, too. You can't just leave him out there because, a 6-yard gain turns into a 60-yard gain because who's going to stop him?
Right.
I mean, he's like you said, a big body. But the thing that I'm most impressed with about South Range is, let's be honest. I mean, Dylan Dominguez, the human cheat code in the backfield, most teams say, listen, we stop 34, we win this game. Has not happened. Has not, because here's what happens is we're going to stop the run. Great. But can you stop the run from the quarterback? Can you stop the RPO? Can you stop the deep ball? You can't. You can't, and you won't. Now, naturally, everybody looks down the road and says South Range Kirtland, and we saw that a couple years ago where South Range was making one hell of a run with Bazzacco and all those guys and Remish. Let me tell you something. If those two teams played right now, that South Range team versus this South Range team, my money's on this South Range team. And I'll tell you why. Is because they're very much like that. Mm-hmm. They just carry a little bit more swagger. And you look to the guys that came before them. Allegretto had that swagger. Just the timing was never right. And right now, South Range, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say they're going to be state champs, but I would put them up against pretty much anybody here and say they've got a great chance to win this game.
I'll pull a Ronnie Patesta and say if they get past Kirtland, you get past that region, you better win state because Kirtland's the best team in that state, in that division.
Correct.
So if you get past them, the door swings open for the state champions.
And I think that I don't want to say because Coach Higley would kill me if he wouldn't kill me. He'd probably give me a stern look. But I think that it comes down to South Range has their eyes focused on Kirtland. They'll beat whoever is in front of them to get to Kirtland to have a chance to say, we did it. Mm-hmm. Kirtland, I don't think necessarily looks over and looks at South Range the same way. And I think that's a dangerous thing for South Range because you look at this team, we saw Team of Destiny in baseball. A lot of these guys have the same mentality of, listen, we put all our chips in the middle of the table, you put all your chips in the middle of the table, and let's see how this hand goes. I mean, every week I feel like, and Fitch is the same way. You look at Fitch, oh, this is the toughest week for Fitch. Oh, this is the toughest week for South. Like, all of these teams, they're not going to make it to they're going to show their true colors. They've shown their true colors. And anybody who's not a hater understands that Fitch is a very good football team. led by a very good TJ Parker, a leader, and his staff, young staff that relate to these guys that have been successful before, and they're showing these guys how to win, how to face adversity, how to knock it out of the park and make people believe in you. Because the reality is they don't care, and really they don't have to worry about how many fans are there anymore. Right. They worry about the 60 guys that are on that sideline, and they go, all we have to do is we believe in ourselves. I mean, you saw the picks early on. Everybody bet against Fitch. Right. We do it every Friday. People still bet against Fitch. I've never bet against Fitch, and I never will bet against Fitch because I know what TJ Parker means, and it's the same way with Dan Yeagley. Those coaches, just like we talk about leadership all the time, leadership is trickled down to others. And the reason Dan has been so successful, and he'll tell you straight up, number one, is because of his kids. But I tell him all the time, his kids buy into him. They buy into his coaches. They buy into the program. They buy into Raider football. You look a few miles down the road, Fitch is doing the same thing, and it's starting to be really contagious. People are buying into Falcon football. They beat Steubenville. Steubenville. I mean, we were talking offline to a couple of our coworkers. Steubenville by 30. No. Buy into this program. A couple people saying, they're going to be state champs if they beat Steubenville. What now?
Now what? Now it's all about Hoban.
And listen, nothing against Hoban.
No.
But again, look at
that Benedictine team they beat 42 to 14, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Benedictine team only lost by 7 to Hoban. You don't think their eyes are open a little bit?
Well, that's the thing is Fitch. You listen to Ron Podesta, and he says this Fitch team will be contenders in 2021. Why can't they be contenders now? It really it kind of pisses me off.
I think people saw their quarterback was a junior and thought, oh man, if he gets one more year under his belt, he'll be full. But they forgot that he already has a year. Last year he was a starter and did great. So he's basically a senior as a junior in experience wise.
Stud.
I
mean, Devin Sherwood is one of the best players in not just our area, our region, our state. Let's give these kids credit because I feel like they don't get enough. You look at Todd Simons. I mean, some of the weapons that Fitch has, it's incredible to see. Even you look at Mineral Ridge, people count them out, and all of a sudden they're the hottest team outside of those two teams we just talked about.
They scored above 40 in 2 games in a row.
Springfield. Everybody jumps on the Springfield. And here's the thing that sucks about winning is people get used to it.
Oh, we have a caller.
Remember how to do this?
I think so.
6, I think. Yeah.
You're on Running Point with Anthony Hartwig and DJ. How you doing?
Fantastic. Let me tell you something. If we listen to Ron Podesta, we'd be watching the Indians in the World Series right now. Okay, so we can listen to him, but we don't have to believe him.
Yeah, right? Only if Ron Podesta will say only if they get past the Yankees.
So. Yeah, I mean, Ron's missed on a couple high school teams this year. So,
hey, Billy Mack, I think you missed on a couple high school teams this year. How you feeling about Fitch right now?
I feel good because I only lost 1 game this week.
You feeling that Fitch bandwagon?
Yeah, I never left the bandwagon.
You driving the bus now?
The only game I missed on was the Benedictine game.
That's true.
That was it. So, I've been high of the Fitch Falcons. They got some stuff to prove to me. But they're one of the best teams in the area by far.
What are they missing, you think?
What were they missing?
Yeah, what are they missing right now? What doesn't make them the be-all, end-all for you and team you stamp and say this is the best team in the state?
I don't know. They're real close, I think. I really do. I think it's just I would have liked to seen it's hard to say because, the doubts that I had, it was against Benedictine, and they kind of you didn't hear from me that week, you know what I mean? On a negative sense.
You didn't fall off the face of the earth that week.
To answer DJ's question, I mean, if you have to nitpick Fitch and try to break down, maybe their defensive line doesn't exactly control the line of scrimmage every play. Their run defense definitely struggled this week against Steubenville until the last play of the game because Steubenville could run any way they wanted. So I mean, you're nitpicking when you say kind of stuff like that, but I'm sure T.J. Parker's going to dive into that film and find 50 things that Fitch can improve on, and that's what makes him great.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I mean, if we had to pick, I mean, we'd probably have a hard time picking the coach of the year in the Valley right now, but he would definitely have to be somebody to mention for sure, T.J. Parker. So.
I mean, we've talked about it before at length on the Power Hour. I mean, some of the coaches we have, we're so spoiled in this area for leadership. I mean, you look across the board.
Can we say this for sure though? At least I'm going to. This has got to be the biggest surprise in the area of where they were from last year to this year.
Well,
They were 5-5 last year, and now they're a top number 2 seed in Division II in their region. So that's got to be one of the biggest upswings in the Valley here. So I don't have any information in front of me, but this is just offhand. So
no, I think that's a fair statement. I mean, I think
it's between them and West Branch. I mean, those are the two teams that really turned around. West Branch was 2-8 last year.
And still, West Branch, nobody talks about them.
Right.
Nobody still talks about them. And I feel bad because I feel like we don't give them as much credit as we should because, I mean, they jumped on YSN late, but my goodness, like an undefeated season, and nobody still just, I mean, they're going to sneak up on everybody and contend for a state title. That's a good team over there.
What division? They're in Division 4, right?
4, yep.
Yeah, it's a tough bracket in there though.
Well,
they're the 4 seed and they're undefeated, so that tells you all you need to know about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be teams. I mean, you look at.
Well, I think that's a good seed for them. I mean, we talked about it on Thursday for the Power Hour. I really feel like that's probably a pretty good seed for the schedule that they play. Maybe it's some tight games that they were in with some teams that maybe they should have, maybe blew out or something. I'd have to go back and check for sure everything. But, when you put some of those teams, and we talked Thursday about that, a lot of that's a popularity contest. I don't know this school. I don't know the teams they played, so I'm going to put them as a 7.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Garrettsville Garfield right now. You are all aboard on them. What makes them so dangerous? You think just their experience, just the size that they have?
All right, so I'm from the neck of the woods, so that's kind of why. And they're going to be, from what I understand, they should be a YSN team next year. But until then, they're gritty, man. There's a different. Garrettsville is old school, man. It's kind of like the Steel or the South Range. I've always said that they're the Portage County, Trumbull County. They're in Portage County, obviously, but they're the Portage County version of South Range. So they're old school. Their coach has been there for a while. They, those people who were from Garrettsville, lived in Garrettsville, had kids in Garrettsville, basically similar to a South Range, and they're accustomed to winning in every sport. They have had great basketball teams. I think their basketball team last year won districts over there. They beat LeBray. So I mean, they're accustomed to winning over there. It's very similar to South Range. I mean, they're the same size, so they're gritty, man. They got a couple college guys on that front line there that will get after and get nasty with anybody. And in high school football, if you have a great offensive line, you're going to have a pretty good season.
Yeah. So when we, if the paths cross of South Range and Garrettsville Garfield, are you going to be in the booth for that one?
Oh, Paul and DJ won't let me have that.
We appreciate you, brother. Did you have a good weekend? I'm assuming because that team that you like so much that wears the orange helmet, they had a pretty good performance yesterday. That Victory Monday started out well for you.
Yeah, I suppose I had a pretty good weekend. My brother got married on Friday. We tried to jump on the show. We couldn't get internet access. It was a little all over the place. A lot of people there at Avalon and Warren, and that was a great night. And then Sunday followed up with a big win. I was a little surprised when because I was still driving around. I still had to do my brother duties of collecting tuxes and making sure my brother got all of his stuff, and we're trying to watch the game on the phones in between car rides, and you know how I am watching the Browns. I'd rather be alone than watch the Browns.
Yes, sir.
So it was I was a little surprising to see some things. A little nervous about Nick Chubb, waiting to see what happens with him. I mean, I know Kareem Hunt's pretty good still too. 3 years ago, leading rusher, but There ain't no replacing Nick Chubb. Let me tell you something.
Is this a team in the Cleveland Browns that go the way Odell Beckham goes? I mean, when he has a good day, seemingly the Browns are unbeatable.
No, I would actually go the opposite way with that. I started looking at Odell as kind of like a over-the-top guy right now. I see that they're trying to get creative with giving him the ball a little bit more. It kind of helped when Chubb went out, so they were trying to really give him on some end rounds and get him the ball rushing a little bit too, just trying to give him some touches. But I think the way that this team is going to go, if you watched last year's Minnesota Vikings team and the way that offense ran, and Kirk Cousins had a really good year last year off of play action, short range passes. You know, the wide receivers were complaining about not getting the ball, but the running game really took off. With our two-headed monster back there, I think you play through those guys in our front line. Probably one of the best lines we've had since coming back in '99.
I can believe that. I mean, I just thought it was impressive. I mean, first off, the defense needs help because I don't think they're going to be able to compete with a lot of those other teams that actually.
There's just so many injuries. There's so many injuries in places that they need help in. The back end of the secondary is just not very good. Linebackers are just guys that are just filling spots at this point, it looks like. The back half of our defense is just not very good. You can talk about Myles Garrett getting after the ball, but we really don't want to be in no 49-point
No.
to 30, 40 shootouts with anybody. I mean, that's just not going to be our style. We're going to hopefully we can run the ball and control the clock. I mean, if you really want to call it, it's old school Steeler football without the defensive part.
So talk to me about the difference in opinion of this team between the first half and the second half. First half, we were all in a group text, and you were feeling pretty good. Second half, I didn't hear a whole lot from you.
Well, what happened was I don't even know if I talked too much yesterday about the Browns. I could be wrong because, you know, I definitely love to talk trash, especially with our group. With anybody, it doesn't even matter. Sometimes it's just the troll in me. But, yeah, I got a little nervous there, so I got a little quiet just in case. You never know, because I know there's 2 Cowboy fans in our group text. So if I say anything too crazy and they would have came back and won, I would have had to turn my phone off.
Billy, did your heart stop when they pulled that end around? Yeah, and then Odell had to run about 20 yards backwards to get the corner. I mean, that your heart had to stop for a minute during that play.
It was It was so crazy because I'm sitting there thinking, like, you know what? Let's just get a first down or 2, punt the ball away, and they'll get the ball with a minute left, and hopefully they just can't figure it out. You know, and our defense will stop. I never really thought that we would go down the field and score because our defense had really, our offense has kind of stalled in that fourth quarter there. So it was a creative play. I liked it. Obviously, when they score, it's always a good thing. But I really just, I mean, that just kind of shows, you know, that mentality of you're figuring out to win some games, and maybe you weren't supposed to win, or maybe you're supposed to win and you end up finishing. There's something to be said, even at the NFL level, where guys are getting paid. There's still something about winning football games. And I said that early in the year with, like, Ursuline High School, is I basically said, hey, they got to figure out how to win games because they're not accustomed to it. Well, the same thing goes for the Browns. They don't know what it's like to win. Years ago when they were off to that 8-2 or 8-3 start with that Cleveland boy, or Hoyer. They didn't know how to win games. They were winning games because teams were giving them wins, and then when it came down to actually winning games, they didn't know how to do that. And then the last few years, we were having the same issues, as we just couldn't find ways to win games. We'd rather find ways to do Cleveland things and lose at the end of games. Now it's kind of flipping the script a little bit. We're starting to win those battles that we thought we weren't going to do previously.
We're talking to Billy McCartney from Max Baseball Academy. Billy, obviously, I mean, he's a huge contributor to YSN. Before we let you go, I want to get your kind of thoughts and opinions on spinning it back to local here. The OHSA coming out and saying, okay, you've got X amount that you're going to be owed, that they're going to be owed from, you know, streamers like us and TV stations and da-da-da-da-da, on and on and on. How important to you is it to have local sports, especially football, available to you, you know, when it's not necessarily easy to go to the game this year?
I mean, it's a lot. I'll just use it from some people that I know. Some people with the COVID environment, they still want to even parents still they don't really feel comfortable going to football games because not everybody's following the rules and regulations. So they're trying to do their part and support their kids in some fashion, and it's great for us to cover it because we talk about it every day, especially from 3 to 4 in Power Hour. So it's important for us to cover those games. Now with OSHA, I think this is just they couldn't win things. All right, so everything that they went out there and said that they were going to try to do and try to expand the fans and try to earn their money back, they weren't able to do. So what they're trying to gouge the people who can provide the service for the parents, for the fans, and that's kind of where they're going to try to make it up to them. But I'm at the vet office. They're calling me. I got to roll. I'll see you today at 3.
Appreciate you, brother.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
That was Billy Mack, and he'll be on the Power Hour a little bit later. I'm sure he'll dive more into the OHSAA because he loves to get on their bad side.
He is, and here's the thing: is I don't want people all ganging up on the OHSAA. They're a business, right?
Right.
The way that they did it could have been done better. They've done a really good job up to this point. And I'm not pointing the finger at any one particular person, but the OHSAA as a whole. I mean, we talked about it on Friday. It needs to be so. Just from a business standpoint, you could budget for this. I mean, $4,000 isn't exactly lunch money. You know what I mean? It's a situation where we would like the opportunity to go out and maybe secure a sponsor to help us out and do these, but we don't have time now. It was announced to me yesterday on a Sunday. Businesses typically aren't open on Sundays, so now the best chance I have is a Monday. Throw in the situation at hand where, you and I are covering up, on Running Point, and we're covering. Right. It's probably not feasible. I will always put out there, and Steve Leslie does a great job. If you would like to be a sponsor, now's the time to get involved. You get the rest of the football season plus whatever, you were going to do in the first place. So if it's an annual corporate sponsorship, get involved now. But we don't have the resources right now to go out and accrue sponsorships. That's supposed to be done in our off season. Well, we didn't know if there was going to be football. We didn't know if there was going to be volleyball, lacrosse, soccer.
They came out with that decision late too, so I'm not surprised that they kind of let us know the price late.
A week and a half. Like, we had a week and a half to get ready and buy $17.4 thousand in equipment, to which we could have been building up to this entire time. Add in the fact that they were COVID pricing, you know what I mean? Like, probably double and a half what they should have been. But that's the cost of doing business. And, we're not going to let somebody dictate the way we do our job. We're going to do the same job we've been doing for 3 years. We're going to be homers for our teams. Naturally, whenever they play each other, we scale it down a notch or two. So if anybody's complaining, imagine what it'd be like if you weren't on that side, if your team wasn't on the wall. So, again, Billy's a huge advocate for us. Our entire team loves what we do, or they wouldn't be here. They're not breaking the bank one way or another. So,
before we take a break and get Coach Costel from Salem Volleyball up on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline, that's a mouthful.
It is.
But playoffs, I have frequently asked questions are: is it going to be 9-9 still get you all the playoff games?
Yeah, 9-9. We're bought into this new model. $9.99 gets you all the games, rather than $9.99 gets you one. That was a model that we tried, didn't like from the jump, but we had to do. So when we came out and we figured out the playlist, we put even more money into that software. I love it. I think the building value around our product is clutch. And we had, I'll have to go look at the numbers. I don't want to give any crazy numbers out, but man, we had a ton of viewers on Friday night and into Saturday. And the nice thing was if you bought the game Friday or a game Friday, you got Saturday's games too. So it was enjoyable. We're bought into the playoff, and $9.99 moving forward will get you all the games for the playoff season.
And you buy on Friday, you'll get Saturday too, right? You don't have to buy.
Yeah, 100%. You don't have to. It's $9.99. Right. You get all the games that we have available.
Audible call both nights.
Mike Ackelson, Nick Zeronis, you guys are all coming in.
The great thing is they came to you and said, "Let's do." Like you didn't even have to ask them to do Friday and Saturday.
We sat there we sat on the couch on Friday and we were just kind of letting the dust settle as we do. After everything's pretty much done, and they came, they said, listen, we're doing this. We're doing Friday and Saturday. I think there's 14 games on Saturday. There's how many games on Friday?
8? Is it 13 and 8?
It's something like that. I mean, we have non-playoff games too this week. Don't forget. So Sebring, Palestine's going to play Saturday at 2. We're still working on the logistics of that. Paul's handling all that. But you get all those games, and those games are still pay-per-view. Keep in mind. So the $9.99 you'll get if you're a Palestine fan or you're a Sebring fan. You pay $9.99 for that game. You get all the playoff games. I mean, that's awesome. You cannot beat that with a stick. It's so good of it. And I say that because but listen, if that's less than $1 a game, that's less than 50 cents a game if you add it up. So I mean. If you could get into a game for 50 cents, I would say, even my pappy would say that's a bargain, So
quick reminder as well that 25% still goes back to the school. You just have to make sure you buy it from that school's YSN website.
Yep, you buy it from their channel, and the 25% will go to them. So we're handling it. One way or another, we'll figure it out, baby.
We're pulling a Captain America, whatever it takes, man.
Whatever it takes. The Avengers are assembled. We are ready to go.
All right, we'll take a break, and we'll be back with Salem head coach for volleyball, Casey Costle. Don't go anywhere. That's not a break. Breaks are done.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come. So call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Point. I'm Anthony Hartwig. Poe has the day off, so I am taking the helm. Joining us pretty soon on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline will be Salem Volleyball head coach Casey Costle. Salem is 6-6 on the year so far, and they're a volleyball program that knows how to win. They've consistently been good for the last several years. Casey Costle taking over the helm this season in their first year. It's been up and down, but they still pull out games where they win because of their experience. They win because they know how to win, and it's been really impressive watching them. Kaylee Davis is a phenomenal volleyball player. They're coming off a loss on Saturday to a very talented East Liverpool team in 5 sets. It was very competitive. That 5th set went 19-17, and that's one of the highest 5th sets I've seen all season. Very competitive game, and we have her calling on right now on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Hello, you are on with the Running Point, and how are you doing? Is this Coach Costel?
This is.
Hey, how you doing?
How about you?
I'm good. Thank you for calling in and talking about your program today. We want to start just by saying it's your first year. What's it kind of been like to take over the helm at Salem? And we talked about it's a program that kind of has a very great history, a very winning history. And what's it been like kind of taking over and making it your own?
It's been awesome. I mean, I've been really blessed to be able to take it over. And the past coach, Sarah Hamilton, she's helped me a lot. And my athletic director, Matt Freeman, he's helped me a lot as well. And it's definitely, the girls are really welcoming. The staff around it was very welcoming. So it's really awesome. And it's cool to get the chance to come back to where I graduated and the program I was able to play at and kind of make it my own and keep the traditions alive as well.
And you said it, you were an alum, you played with this program. So how special is it to have the helms of it? And how much do you kind of take passion from that, knowing that it's your baby, it's your alumni, and you definitely want to keep up their tradition?
Yes, it is so awesome. I feel so lucky to be back, and it's seriously so cool to be back. I never expected to be back either. I knew I always wanted to be a coach, and I didn't expect the opportunity to come this early or to be at my high school. So I definitely considered myself blessed to have the opportunity.
What were some of the things when you started to coach that you kind of had to adjust to, or maybe that were different than you thought they would be in the first couple of weeks of maybe taking over the program?
Definitely one of the big things was adjusting to all the COVID guidelines. That was a huge thing. So there's a bunch of new things, and then on top of that, we have our temperature checks every day. We have to clean all of our equipment before and after. That was a big adjustment for not just me, but at least the girls. So it was nice as we were both going through that together. Another thing is I'm used to being a player. So it took me a bit to have to break things down for the girls. Like for me, it was like I'm just used to doing those things. And then it took me back a little bit. Now I have to break these things down for them and show them what I learned from my past coaches.
Now let's talk about your season. You're 6-6 on the year, and it's been kind of an up and down season. You started off a little rocky, but then there was a point in the middle of the season where your girls really kind of put it together. What kind of growth have you seen from your team from the start of the season to where they're at now?
I've seen a lot of growth, both individually and as a team. We're definitely working a lot more together as a team, and this is kind of a building year. A lot of these girls haven't played, at least on varsity, or even on varsity together. So I've seen them become a team, and I've seen them improve on not just their skills, but I've seen them improve on communication, working together, and it's really awesome to see.
Let's talk about this game on Saturday against East Liverpool. I mean, it was one of the most competitive games that we've had on our network all season. It went to 5. It was a 17-19 loss in set 5. But your girls, man, they put it all out on the court. It just didn't go their way. What kind of things did you say to the team after a loss like that when you kind of gave everything you could and it just didn't work out? Now you have to bounce back and try to win games this week.
I mean, I always try to tell them it's not always about the win or the loss. It's about growth. And I definitely saw a lot of growth through them throughout that play. I mean, they definitely put up a fight. And it's just more about executing the things that we talked about before the game and during the game, which, so hopefully we'll continue to improve upon those things.
You dominated set 2, 25-10. When you watched that set progress, was that kind of what you think the potential of this team entails and everything you saw in that set?
Yes, definitely.
It doesn't get any easier tonight. You guys play a Crestview team that comes in 12-2, and they're a tough team. Salem was their only loss last season on the regular season schedule. So what's the challenge ahead of you against Crestview tonight?
I think the challenge ahead of us is just playing as our team, playing the game that we know, communicating the whole time, and executing on the other team's weaknesses.
What players have you said that there's a lot of new players with who are the players that have stepped up and kind of been vocal leaders on the court this season?
Two of my seniors have been awesome vocal leaders, Kaylee Davis and Morgan McGathick. She's my setter and Kaylee's my outside hitter. They've been an awesome rule on the team this year. One of my returning varsity players, Jenna McClish, she's been awesome. She's our libero. She played varsity last year, and she's playing with a lot of new girls this year, but she's really stepped up and showed them her leadership as well.
And when you talk about McGathick, she's a senior setter. That's got to be such a blessing to have a team that's kind of learning the ropes, but you have a setter that's a senior that can kind of lead your team out there on the court. What advantage is there to having at least a senior setter out there trying to lead the team?
I think the advantage is just, how much experience she's had. She's been out there for a while. The girls, as a senior, she's in that role, so she's easy to look up to. And she's just a natural leader. She encourages people all the time, and that's one thing that really helps our team.
Going forward, we look into tournaments starting in a couple of weeks. What kind of things do you want to see your team improve on in the last couple of weeks of the season before tournaments start?
I think our biggest thing to improve on is communicating and then just staying focused. That's one of our things. Our biggest things this year is staying focused, playing as a team, and quickly bouncing back from any kind of errors that we may have individually and as a team.
You get to spend so much time with this Quakers team. What's the personality of the team like kind of off the court? What kind of things do they bring personality-wise?
Off the court personality-wise, they're all just really great girls. They're all really kind. They're fun. I mean, we love hanging out outside of volleyball, too. So they're easygoing, outgoing girls, easy to hang out with.
You talked about the kind of COVID-19 obstacles that you've had to face in a first-year head coach. What, energy is so important in volleyball. What kind of creative ways have you found to keep that energy and momentum with trying to keep the 6-foot social distancing aspect of it?
Yeah, our biggest thing is our bench. Even though they're off the court, they're separated. They can still be loud on the bench. They get up after we try to get them up, celebrating for anyone on the court. That's our biggest thing, just to cheer on their teammates. Even though they're separate, they're still together.
We talked about it before. You played for Salem, now you're coaching for Salem. What is it about this school system that makes it so special to you and makes you proud that you get to come back and kind of represent the Quakers and represent that program?
What makes it so special is I came into Salem my freshman year. I was new to the school. And volleyball was the first thing I got involved with. I started off in the summer before school even started. And that was where I found my passion in volleyball. I played in junior high, but then it was that freshman year coming to Salem. The girls, the coaches, they were all so welcoming. And I loved the team. It made me love the sport even more. So it was just so special to me as I was new to school, and volleyball was the first thing I was able to do and make lots of connections through that.
I'm sure when you got the job, you reached out to a lot of people and kind of asked for some advice. And what was some of the words of wisdom you got when you got the job from maybe the people that you went to for help?
Yeah, I definitely got lots of advice. Sarah, the past coach, she told me, she just really encouraged me, and she told me that I'm going to do a good job, and I have to trust in myself to make decisions. Another person that reached out to me, Don Conser, he was a past Salem coach as well, and he told me kind of along the same lines, just listen to yourself, don't let others try to tell you what to do, make your own path.
A coach is nothing without good assistance. So talk about this coaching staff that you have and how they've helped you kind of mold the team to what they are now.
Yeah, so we were blessed to have Candy Kekic from the past. She's been there for the past 4 years. So she was still there, and she was the only coach left from the past years. So it was nice to have her because she's had tons and tons of experience, and she's given me lots of advice through everything. She's currently coaching our 8th grade. And then my JV/assistant coach, she's actually my neighbor. So, and we went to elementary school together, and she agreed to come coach with me, which is awesome because we already have a great relationship. We know each other really well. She's coached junior high, a little bit of JV before, so she knows the ins and outs of volleyball. She's helped me with the rules and all those kinds of things. And then my 7th grade coach, Anna, I worked with her. We both were waitresses together, and she's just a really great person. And she always wanted to be a coach, and I didn't realize that until I reached out to her. So it was the perfect opportunity. And so it was 3 of us were new, so we're all kind of going through that together. So that's nice.
You got your JV assistant also as your neighbor. So how many times have you guys taken your homework with you and had some late night volleyball discussions after a game since you guys live so close together?
Oh yeah, all the time. Either she walks over to my house or I walk over to her house through the yard, and we're either watching film, planning practice, all those kinds of things, constantly in communication. And it's nice because it's so easy to, it's a quick walk over.
You know, we joke about it, but so much extra work goes into coaching a team. You got to watch film. You got to plan for practices. You don't get a lot of practices in between games as a volleyball because you guys are playing 4 games a week. So sometimes, you know, you'll look at film from a Tuesday and you have a game on Wednesday. You have to make adjustments in game on the fly. What's that kind of like from a coach's perspective when you don't get maybe a practice when you want to get it? You have to try to adjust your kids in the next game on the next day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always ideal to not get that practice time before a big game, but it's good when you have flexible players, and I think we do. We have a lot of flexible players, and they're willing to change things throughout the game. We've already had to be very flexible this season with players getting injuries and moving them around to different positions. So they've done a really good job with that. So it's like our time is really that warm-up. Watch the girls as closely as we can, see the patterns we can pick out from that.
So far, what has been your favorite kind of part of coaching this team, and what's been your favorite memory of this season?
My favorite part of coaching is seeing them finish a game or see them get that one play that they've been working on, hit that one spot that I've been telling them to go to or that they see on their own. I just love seeing their faces light up and the whole team get really excited. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing that on the court. My favorite memory, definitely, I think a really awesome game was Carrollton. It was like back and forth, usually how our 5-set games go. We lost the first set. We came back the second, and, you know, back and forth. And then it was so awesome just to see them dominate that 5th set. I believe the score ended up being 15-9, if I'm right. But it was just to see their faces light up and come in together at the end. It was awesome.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. I know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you taking the time to come and talk about your program today.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me as well. I appreciate it.
All right, Coach, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Bye. That was Coach Casey Costel of the Salem Quakers, who do play Crestview tonight, and I'm kind of excited to see how that game goes because Crestview's a team that really had to replace a lot of players last year. They lost 8 seniors, and we had their first game of the season live on YSN against East Liverpool, the team that Salem lost to on Saturday, and you could tell they were trying to figure things out. But then I had their game in the middle of the season, Crestview against Western Reserve, which is a strong out-of-conference game. And let me tell you, Crestview figured things out. Lucy Montgomery from the outside, who is up for a Big Dog of the Week, which ends today, by the way. But Lucy Montgomery from the outside, she's figured things out she goes down the line, which is something you do not see a lot from outside hitters at the high school level. She does a really good job adjusting her hits. So Crestview is a team that is going to give Salem a lot of things to look at, and it's another game for Salem to kind of take in and learn from, because I think, one, if they go into Crestview and beat the Rebels, then that's a good feather in their cap, because that's a strong team in a division down from them. But another thing about Salem, in this game, is they're going to see a lot of things that they'll probably see in the tournament, as far as the offensive sets that Coach Auer runs, the sets that the setter can really put up, and also the defense that Crestview will play with Shelby Rambo at the net, and then Kendra Greaves as their libero back there doing a great job. I can't praise Lucy Montgomery enough. She was the Rebel setter last year as a sophomore, and now has kind of morphed into an outside hitter / setter, because they run a 6-2. So whenever she's not the setter in the back row, she'll go into the front row and be one heck of an outside hitter. She has a lot of double-doubles on the season because of that. So I'm really excited to see this Salem-Crestview matchup, and I think Salem's record doesn't show exactly. We talked about it. They've grown a lot since the start of the year. We saw it on Saturday when they went to East Liverpool, and they gave the Potters all they could. So it's going to be very fun to watch. I think if I had to kind of pick, I think Salem's got a really good chance to upset the Rebels. And the Rebels have a very tough week ahead of them. They also host Lakeview on Wednesday, and Lakeview's undefeated. So the scheduling from Coach Auer and the Rebels is never been something that she takes lightly. And that's why the Rebels have been very successful in the tournament. They're coming off of a district championship, and they'll look to kind of repeat this year. And I think they have a really good shot at repeating, because they've kind of figured things out. They've put people in places, and their players have kind of accepted new roles, like Lucy Montgomery accepting the role as an outside hitter, just for an example. So it's going to be fun to see. I think Salem and Crestview is going to be a fun game. Another fun game tonight is we're going to talk to Fitch head coach Jody Bartlett at about 1:30. Is Fitch gonna host Poland? And Fitch versus Poland, no matter what sport you're playing, that's always going to be a fun matchup. Aaliyah Hughes taking over the Bulldogs for the first year. She's also in the same boat as Crestview. They've had to replace 8 seniors. They're trying to figure things out. They're putting people in different spots, but I saw them against United last week, and United is a solid team. They went to Poland, and Poland was impressive. They kind of had people step up in new roles. They were down 2 starters that night. It didn't matter. They went and beat a very impressive United team at home. And then the day after, they go and they beat Girard, who's the number 2 team in the NE8 at that time. And to beat a Girard team that has hitters like Lauren Pallone and Brie Littell swinging very hard out of the outside middle, that was such an impressive thing to do. I don't know if Morgan Kluchar played in that game against Girard. I'm going to say, if I had to guess, that she didn't, because she was out on Monday. So to do that also without your best blocker in the front net, that's just very impressive from Poland. So they have a huge test against Fitch, who might be one of the better teams in the area. Fitch is 13-2. They are senior-led. They have 7 seniors on that team. They have a senior setter. They have senior outside hitters. They have senior middle blockers. And they play really good defense in the back row. So Fitch is a different animal for Poland, but that's going to be, we talked about it with Crestview, that's going to be one of those games that Poland can kind of take in and adjust and learn what they need to learn for their tournament run, because tournaments are coming up for volleyball. They have about 2 more weeks of the regular season, and then they'll vote on the tournament seeds, and tournaments are going to look a little bit different. From what I've been told, I don't have all the information, but I've been told that there's not going to be district sites this year. Like last year, Division III was all in Salem, Division II was all in West Branch, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's going to be the high seed kind of host the whole way through. That way they get rid of teams trying to be in one spot, so they don't have the 4 teams in one spot because of COVID-19. And it's going to look a little bit like basketball, where teams that have a good regular season are rewarded with home games in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how volleyball and volleyball teams around the area kind of adjust to a new look in the tournament run, in the tournament system. And, you might see the brackets look a little bit different too. There's a possibility where South Range and Crestview, who have been tournament rivals for a long time, don't have to meet each other until regionals. Just depends on what bracket South Range kind of decides to fall into. We're going to talk to South Range head coach later in the show. He'll be calling in TJ Irons at 2:30. So I'm just excited. We got a lot of volleyball to talk about today, and we'll have Jody Bartlett call in at 1:30. And like I said, Fitch might be one of the more impressive teams in the area. We've done 3 of their games on YSN, and they've beaten Canfield, who is a team they haven't beaten in a long time. So to go into Canfield and beat the Cardinals in 5, coming back from a 2-0 set lead, we're going to ask Coach Bartlett, but that might be the turning point of their season. Because, that was really early in their season. They had a bunch of seniors, and you could kind of tell after they went down 2-0 that game could have either gone really bad and they could have gotten swept, or they could have stepped up and won that match, and that's what they did, and they rolled ever since. They lost a couple of non-conference games to really tough teams. They lost on Saturday to Massillon Perry. So when you look at Fitch's schedule, it's also a different animal, and we'll talk to Coach Bartlett about that too. So the other coach that we're going to be talking to today is Alyssa Birch from Boardman. She'll be calling in at 2:15. And when you talk, all our teams today except for South Range are really senior-led. Boardman has 6 seniors on the team. Katie Stamp, Maria Torres both do a really good job. And we've talked to both of them on player profiles. And Maria Torres, man, she's just built for toughness. She's come back from a couple of injuries throughout her career, and she seems to be extremely healthy. And a healthy Maria Torres is bad news for anybody on Boardman's schedule. She's been lighting it up all season. And then Katie Stamp is so versatile. They move her around really well. They run slides to her. And when Boardman is rolling, they are good. Now, what Boardman has struggled with this year is trying to find a rhythm when things aren't necessarily going their way, and that's what has kind of come back to bite them a couple of times. And then we'll, again, end the show with TJ Irons from South Range at 2:30. We're going to take a break, and on the other end, we'll get ready for our conversation with Jody Bartlett. Don't go anywhere on Running Point.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories.
We'll look at efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken
around our valley.
Community in Niles
Point. Here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
It's important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
before
Court.
they become life threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends: shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Attention football fans, order Coca's Pizza tailgate package for only $54.99. You'll receive 24 slices of our delicious cheese pizza, 20 jumbo wings, and 2 of our famous foot-long pepperoni rolls. Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Your heating, cooling,
21 News.
for heating, cooling, and indoor air quality. The Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy efficient experts.
And welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Point. Anthony Hartwig with you as Ron Potesta has the day off. He'll be back tomorrow. And as we wait on Coach Bartlett, who will be calling in at 1:30 from the Fitch volleyball program, let's recap a little bit more of Week 6 because we had a fun week of football in the Valley. Let's talk about, we talked about Fitch with DJ in the first hour. Their game against Steubenville, and we described it a couple of times as we were watching it as part of the audible call. Steve was in control of it, Steve Leslie, the GM. It was kind of like a video game. I mean, those offenses were just going back and forth. Neither defense could really get a strong read on the other, and it was different styles. Fitch was throwing it around the field, and then Steubenville was just running it. I think 80% of the time Steubenville ran the ball. So it was really fun to watch two different offenses both succeed in two different ways. And when you talk about Fitch, one of the more impressive things was they proved that they can win a shootout. You know, their defense doesn't have to bring their A game every week, and they have brought their A game to earlier this season. You know, we saw their defense kind of dominate Benedictine. But when you can go and you can tell your defense that you don't have to be great week in and week out, that the offense kind of has your back, that kind of lets the defense kind of play a little bit looser and not have to be as tight. And you saw that when Steubenville went for 2 to win the game. The defense just pinned their ears back and said, let's stop the run for one play. Let's have our offenses back. They went out and scored in the first possession of overtime. They kicked the extra point, and they gave us a lead. And now let's just have their back. And you saw them stuff that run. That must have been a great moment for the defense because it was a night where they struggled all night stopping the run. So maybe Steubenville a little bit predictable. That's one of the things where I go back to people who get on Pete Carroll's case about not running the ball in the goal line at the Super Bowl. Sometimes getting a little bit too predictable can bite you in the butt. And Steubenville definitely learned that lesson because they tried to run it to win the game, and Fitch knew they were running it. I think everyone in the stadium and everyone here in the studio knew they were going to run it, and their defense plugged the gaps and busted through the line and really stopped that run to win the game. How about some championships that have been won over the weekend? South Range with a NE8 title after beating Hubbard and in dominating fashion. There was no doubt left on that field who the best team in the NE8 was. We talked about in the first hour, they can score in different ways. They can have Mike Patrone have a run-pass option, and he can beat you in the air. He can beat you with his legs if you put too much respect on him. Hey, they got Dylan Dominguez who can run it up the middle. They have great receivers on the outside. They have Jake Gehring at the tight end that clogs a lot of those routes up. But they have a good defense, and I think that gets overlooked sometimes. I mean, their defense has been holding teams that are bigger than them down to what Hubbard had 8 points. They've held Poland to 7 points. Their defense has really stepped up and let the offense take risks. And when that offense is able to kind of take risks and play to those big plays, then that's when they roll because they make those big plays a lot of times more than they don't. And that wouldn't happen necessarily in a lot of close games when your offense has to be kind of conservative because one possession, one mistake could really change the outcome. When that offense understands that the defense can hold the other team back, then they can take risks and they can go for that big play that breaks the other defense's back. And they've been doing that all season. Very impressive run for South Range to win the NE8 in the second year that they've been in the league, second year of the league period. The smallest team in the conference making a statement this year and running away with it, quite frankly. How about United going out and winning against Latonia and then Southern winning on Saturday, causing a 3-team kind of tie, a logjam per se, at the top of the EOAC. And when you looked at those 3 teams, I'd want to see them each play each other again because, man, I think it would be so fun to have a legitimate champion in that because they're so evenly matched. I think when you talk about the Southern game last week where they beat United, it was evenly matched other than the first couple minutes of the game because Southern jumped on top early, and that's really all they needed because United responded, but they responded when they were down, 17-0. So it was evenly matched, but that strong start is what really got Southern through that game because United stormed on them, especially in the second half. And it doesn't take anything away from what I think is the best offense in that conference in United. Maybe not the best defense. I think Southern kind of proved how good their defense is in that game, keeping United down for a little bit, long enough for their offense spurt up and give them a big enough lead. And then, you talk about their win against Valley Christian. Valley Christian is an offense that I think is dangerous. And they held them down a little bit. Valley Christian scored a late touchdown to make that score a little bit more respectable. But when you look at the way that the Southern defense kind of held Valley Christian in check, that was impressive because Southern needed to win that game to kind of back up the win last week against United. It wouldn't have meant anything last week if they beat United and then went and lost to Valley Christian. So their defense sets the tone for the Indians. And when you look at those three teams, Latonia, Southern, and United all at the top, it was a fun season in the EOAC, and it's the first time in the EOAC you can say it was a really fun season because there's usually one or two teams that dominate everybody else. And this season, whether it be, it was a shortened season, you can say that, but it was definitely competitive among all three teams. And that's what you like to see. You like to see parity in those kind of conferences. So they have a 3-team tie between Southern, United, and Latonia. West Branch, we talked about them a little bit in the first hour. They looked absolutely dominant against the undefeated Canton South team. That was a game for the outright EBC title, and they put the hammer down on the Wildcats all night. Brock Hillier was electric. I think he's one of the most electric players not talked about enough in this area. Maybe it's because West Branch is over there in where no one else goes, but there's something about that team where they kind of, even though they're undefeated, they go into a game as an underdog, and they feel that, and that's how they play so well. I think they've bought into that underdog mentality because they play angry. They play like they have something to prove every week, and you saw it this week. A lot of people were picking Canton South in that game for some reason. And Canton South came into West Branch, and they didn't know what hit them. It was over after the first quarter. It really wasn't close. They couldn't get anything going on offense, and they couldn't stop Brock Hillier and West Branch's running attack. And through the air, too. Brock Hillier is a dual threat. We talked about all the dual threat quarterbacks. He is a good one. The other championship that we have to talk about is, let me think, because Springfield coming into Jackson Milton, because obviously if Jackson Milton were to shock the world and beat Springfield on Friday night, it would have been a tie for the conference. But I think Springfield kind of came in. You could tell early that Jackson Milton was a little bit different than everybody else on their schedule because it was close for a minute. It was close. Jackson Milton was moving the ball a little bit. Their defense made a couple of big plays. But at the end of the day, against Springfield, eventually that floodgate's going to open, and their offense is going to find holes in your defense, and that happened to Jackson Milton, and it got ugly pretty quick. But I think when I watched that game, like I said, you could tell the difference between Jackson Milton and some of the other teams that Springfield plays, like the formality of Jackson Milton, the strength of Jackson Milton. They were definitely the second best team, or should have been. They finished second in the conference for a reason. And I think if they didn't stub their toe the week before against Mineral Ridge, and unfortunately for Jackson Milton, they kind of looked them over. I think they were looking at that Springfield game, and their eyes got a little wide. We said it on Running Point that week. We pleaded with them, don't look over Mineral Ridge, don't do it. And unfortunately for them, they did, and the Rams caught hot, and they stayed hot this week. So the Blue Jays end the season at 4-2, but they definitely, I think, when I watch them on film, I don't think that takes away anything from their ability to go and win a couple games or win a game or two in the playoffs, because their defensive line and their offensive line is big enough to control the line of scrimmage. I think they proved that against Western Reserve. I think if they stay focused, I think their quarterback can do a lot of good things. I like Jackson Milton still. The rough end to the season doesn't really change my mind about them, because I think Mineral Ridge was it was a coachable moment. They didn't give the Rams all the respect they deserved, and that game was over before they could blink, and then they couldn't really rebound after that. And then Springfield's to Springfield. I mean, they really competed, I thought, especially in the first quarter and a half against Springfield. But, Springfield is one of those teams that, like I said, eventually their offense is going to find holes in your defense, and they're eventually going to break the floodgates open. And that's what happened to Jackson Milton. But I still think the Blue Jays, very formidable team going forward in the playoffs. Another team that looked pretty impressive is... I lost my train of thought again. Western Reserve, yes. Western Reserve, they played Sebring, and they were coming off of a couple of bad losses. They lost to Jackson Milton, and I think that was a game that they probably thought they could have won. And let's not forget that Western Reserve had a tumultuous offseason. They lost their head coach, and they hired someone, and then that head coach had to leave, and they've had coaching changes again and again. So a tumultuous offseason, and to end the season with a big win like that. And yeah, you could say it was Sebring, and I get it. Sebring's a lesser opponent, but when you watch, I got to watch a few plays of that game. They executed everything that you're supposed to execute, and no matter who you're playing, you either execute or you don't. And it wasn't one of those games where they won because they were just better. They won because they executed, and I think that was really impressive and really important for them, the Blue Devils, to just prove that they can go out and bounce back from the tough end of the season they had. In the NE8 as well, I think Niles looked really impressive. Niles against Girard. Zach Leonard got kind of back to what he was doing all season. And to go into Arrowhead, which is a tough place to play, in that season on it's a very tough place to kind of go and win, and to end the season on a good note. They're 4-2 now. They have a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. They go to Ravenna. I think, there are so many teams that when you look at it, I'm more impressed with teams that bounce back from tough stretches to win a game or two to end the season, because that tells me that the mental toughness is there. You can go undefeated and dominate all throughout the regular season. What happens when you get punched in the mouth in the playoffs? Can you respond to that? I am excited for the 4-2 teams that maybe lost 2 games in a row that came out and won week 6, because that proves to me that those teams can handle adversity. And I'm not scared if they go down by 10 in the playoffs. I'm not scared if they, fumble the ball in a big situation. I think they can really bounce back from things like that and really learn how to grow, learn how to battle through adversity. I mean, yeah, we're all excited about the undefeated teams, the Springfield, the South Ranges, the Austintown Fitches, but I think the teams that have had to battle this season might be dangerous in the playoffs. I'm worried about when Springfield gets hit in the mouth. It's going to happen eventually. You cannot go through the playoffs and not have a team come up and really compete with you or throw you some adversity. What's going to happen when all of a sudden maybe they find themselves down? Maybe a team scores first and they're down 7-0. Coach Guerrero, he's a great coach. I'm sure he'll have them ready to go and ready to deal with that situation. But as a young kid, it's hard to dominate your whole season, and then all of a sudden you're not dominating anymore. That's just hard to ask of a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old. So I'm kind of really excited for the teams that have proven that they can bounce back from some adversity and win some games. Poland's another team. They were coming in as favorites in the NE8, unbelievable favorites because of what they did last year. They get hit in the mouth week 1, and they lose a tough game to South Range, and we've all seen what South Range has been doing all week. But they bounce back from that, and they dominate the rest of their schedule. They end 5-1 and earn a 2 seed. I mean, that proves to me that a team like that can battle through adversity, can get through the tough times of a season. It could have been easy for Poland to maybe drop a game or two after South Range, because they could have looked over at what South Range was doing and said, I mean, we're not going to win the league. And, let's just pack it in and lose a couple games and get ready for the playoffs. That never happened. They dominated every game, and that's a testament to not just their coaches, but I think the leadership of teams like that. Teams like Western Reserve we talked about, teams like Niles, teams like Struthers, who opposite, they struggled at the beginning of the season They were winning at the beginning of the season. They're going through adversity now. So let's go to the phone lines as we're going to get back to volleyball and talk to Coach Jody Bartlett of Austintown Fitch. Well, that didn't work. As that phone call, that happened. I don't know what that happened, but that happens to us sometimes on Running Point where we answer the phone and we did this is really annoying high pitched screech and calling again. We'll try this again. Hello, you're on Running Point. Is this Coach Bartlett?
Yes, it is.
Hello, Jody. Thank you so much for joining us and talking a little bit about your program.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
And we talked about this before you called. Fitch might be one of the more impressive teams in the area when talking volleyball. You guys have really put it together, and you're senior-led, so you had to kind of have high expectations coming into the season, if I'm assuming correctly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely a great group of kids, great leadership, and they just have a strong bond. They've been together for a long, long time, and they've been able to build that team chemistry, and they just love it, and they're so grateful to be playing and enjoying every minute of it.
You guys didn't play a ton of games in the first couple weeks of the season. You had a couple of try matches get canceled because of COVID-19. So you went into this big game against Canfield with, I believe, only 2 games under your belt. And Canfield was the team, I've been talking to your players, was the team that you guys haven't beaten in a while. And you guys go down 2-0, and then you storm back and win that game in 5. Do you think that was maybe one of the turning points of the season, even though it was so early, where your team kind of understood what their potential was and understood what they could do this year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think they know volleyball is such a mental game, and so much plays off of every person and how they're handling the pressure at the moment and how it affects everybody else. And we knew, at the end of that second set against Canfield that we needed to pull it together. And that's something I feel like in my past experience as a coach, when we've played Canfield, they're a great team. They have a great program. They're always one of our toughest, if not the toughest team that we see regular season for sure. And my girls were just, they did what they needed to do. And, it was by no means easy beating them. They made us work, but I think they see that if they pull together and they can stay focused and positive, that it definitely makes a big difference in how they perform.
In that moment, down 2-0 in that game, how much did your senior leaders kind of step up and pull the team up and get them through that match?
Oh, they did. And they, what I love about the girls is, they'll speak up when we're in the huddle and, I'm telling the kids what I want to say to them. They have their turn too, and they'll speak up individually and say things, and they all listen to one another and take that in. And they do it on the floor also. They're directing each other and, helping each other out with where they need to be and talking during plays. And so, yeah, they definitely, their leadership helped big time.
And one of the most important positions in volleyball is your setter, and you have a senior setter in Emma Bartlett who has a lot of experience with the other hitters under her belt. So all the senior leaders, but having a senior setter to be the coach on the floor when you need things, what's that kind of like, and what kind of advantage does that give you against other teams?
Oh, it just them having that chemistry. I mean, they've worked together for so long, so they're comfortable with one another. Emma does a great job of setting the other girls in different ways. She knows what they want, and she tries to give them, their individual types of sets that they like. And she also does a good job of mixing it around. And, she has a lot of girls that she can go to. She knows she has a lot of kids that can put the ball away. And she's very smart about when she knows, who's on fire to keep going to that kid. So she does a great job out there.
And if you're listening and you heard the same last name, I didn't make a mistake. It is Coach Bartlett's daughter. So when you guys did senior parent night, and what was that experience? I talked to Emma about that experience on her perspective, but from your perspective, what was it like trying, you had to do your parent duties and walk her across the court for senior parent night, but then you had to put the coach hat back on and coach during the volleyball game. So from your perspective, what was senior parent night like for you?
It was a little weird, honestly. It was. I mean, it's hard because I had to step back, like you said, and and do my parent duty, which I did. But then to try and refocus and all of those girls, all of those seniors are so important to me. So they're definitely a special group, and it was definitely something that I'll always remember and cherish. And it was a special night, and I do think, and I know the girls when they were interviewed said this, and I agreed 100%. The emotional part of it, I think, doesn't hit as hard because it was early on. It was at the beginning of the season. I think, if that senior night was to be held in the next few matches here coming up, if we knew it might be the last time on the floor, I think it may have been a little bit harder emotionally for sure.
And, you talk about what's that dynamic like, getting to coach your daughter and getting that opportunity and trying to, trying to make it seem like a family affair.
You know what? Emma does a really good job of when we're out there, I'm not mom, I'm coach, and that's just, she's been that way from the time I started coaching her when she was 10 years old. And she's never acted or treated me any different than any of the other players do. And I just think we have, that good relationship when we're on the floor together. It's, coach player. When we're at home, it's mom daughter. And it just works. I have seen through the years, Little League and different things of watching my kids in different sports. And I know a lot of parents coach their kids. And I think some kids do respond really well to their parents coaching them. And I think some maybe not so much. But I think with Emma, it's been a good thing. She, she does her job. She doesn't, like I said, think that she's going to get any special treatment because I'm her parent, and she works hard. And she works just as hard for me as she does, for her coach in basketball and any other sport that she's played.
And when you talk about your team, we've mentioned the seniors, and rightfully so. You got a lot of them, and they're all very good. But you have some underclassmen that have really stepped up this year and meshed into this team. And the one that really stands out is Jocelyn Jordan in the middle. She gives you a presence in the middle of the net, with not just with her defense, but also with her offense. What's it been like seeing some of the younger kids kind of get in sync with all the seniors that you have?
Oh, it's been awesome. And, Jocelyn, or Joe, we call her Joe, when I decided last year I was going to bring her to team camp with us, she was coming in as a freshman. There was a lot of pressure on her stepping up into that role, but she never missed a beat. She went right out there and did her job, and she's done great. And she has Kate McGuire to follow. She's our other middle, and Kate has set an awesome example for her. Those two have a very strong bond, so I feel like they feed off of one another. And a couple of my, other underclassmen also, Alyssa Leskovec, Ella Solly, those two, they played with me last year as well, and this year just continue. Their defense is phenomenal, and we added Sammy Missick to that mix this year, and I tell them all the time, those kids, they're the ones that are giving us those passes and letting us run the plays and do the things we can. So they all do a great job.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up the defense you guys play, because I think sometimes in volleyball that kind of goes unnoticed because, let's face it, the swinging is the highlight. Everyone kind of likes to watch the swingers get the attacks. But, man, you have a great libero in Ella Solly, and the passes that she gets up on target most of the time. What's it like being able to depend on your back row when you have such strong hitters like you do?
Oh, that's where it's at. I tell them that all the time. If it wasn't for those kids passing the ball, we wouldn't be able to do half of the things that we're doing. And Ella and Alyssa both also started from a very young age. I was fortunate to coach them when they were only in fifth or sixth grade, I believe it was. I worked with them a little bit, and they both have experience. They play club volleyball also, and they both have had some experience playing on national level teams. And I know they've had some great coaching through their clubs too. So that really benefits them and helps when they come in. But yeah, and I tell the girls the defense, that's where it starts, and it starts with our blockers at the net. And Joe and Kate do a great job there, and our other blockers too. We have Alex Fisher; she does a good job blocking. We have a lot of girls that help out in that regard, and if it wasn't for that defense, then we'd be struggling a lot more for sure.
Passes are on target a lot, but sometimes they're not, and I think you guys do a really good job of adjusting and getting good out-of-system kind of plays. Do you think that has contributed to the fact that you have so many seniors and so many girls that have experience on the court, that when things are a little out of system, they can still get strong swings on the ball?
Oh yeah, I mean we definitely. It's nice for, of course when Emma's setting, she has a lot of options, but when Emma has to pass that ball and she's now out and we need somebody else to step up and set, that person still has options to go to, and we have. Even some of my girls that, maybe only see back row may not hit as much, like Elissa Melody. She's got a great arm. She swings from the back row. And those girls can, wherever they are, they can swing, and they do a nice job. So when you're setting that ball, it's nice to know you have lots of choices to go to for sure. That's something I have not seen in my experience. I feel like in the past we've maybe had a couple girls who have that really strong arm, but I feel like this year we have a handful of them, so it's nice.
Talk about a strong arm, and we can't not talk about Chelsea Wheeler and what she brings to the outside and the arm speed that she brings. Just talk about her as a player and what she brings to the table.
Oh yeah, I mean Chelsea for sure has been our strongest outside hitter and strongest hitter overall. And when she's on fire, she's unstoppable. And, she has that vertical, so she gets up so high and can just hit that ball straight down. And Chelsea has a lot of confidence and plays with that confidence, which, helps her. And she, she's a good leader also. The girls look up to her, and she's a hard worker. She's doing a great job for us.
I've been talking to coaches all season, and the advantage of having girls that play club volleyball in the off season has become very apparent. When I look at the teams that have a lot of girls that play club and have that experience, they seem to just do better even in the tough situations. What kind of advantage does that give you when you have so many players that do play club and do have that experience out of the season?
Oh, it definitely makes a huge difference. Years ago when I started coaching at Fitch, I coached under Tom Case years ago, and that was back with the team that was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame that went to state. And at that time, those kids, they were all involved in club, and it's just more exposure, more practice. And I tell my kids that all the time. And, unfortunately, club is not something that everybody's able to do, and some kids do other sports and it interferes. But for those that can, I tell them that, and regardless of where they're at, the more reps they're getting, the better they're going to be for sure. So, in club, they play a lot in one day. They get a lot of matches in, so it's just great experience. And usually the level of competition is good as well.
Jody Bartlett, the head coach of Austintown Fitch Volleyball, joining us on Running Point. Coach, you've had to bounce back from a loss now on Saturday against a very good Massillon Perry team. But you're 13-2, so it's only the second loss you've had to bounce back from. What do you expect from the mentality of the team this week? Because your schedule doesn't get any easier as you go on to a game against Poland tonight, I believe. How do you guys expect to bounce back against a tough loss?
Well, we've had a good long talk after that match, and, there are a lot of things we know we need to work on, a lot of things that, we just weren't going our way that day. And, Perry is a great team. They had some really strong hitters. They were very good, stopping us at the net and blocking a lot of our hits. And, and their hitter, they had a right side hitter, 6'2", that just was, she was super strong, and she did a great job of seeing where our block was and going around it. And so lots of things we know we need to work on. But my girls, I tell them all the time, we're only going to get better when we play those strong teams. They're making us better, and we could end up seeing Perry again in the tournament. So, we're going to keep working hard, and if that happens, I'm sure we'll be ready.
And you never want to lose, but do you think this was maybe a perfectly timed loss towards the end of the season to kind of maybe bring the girls a little bit down to earth a little bit and show them that there are things they can work on and that it is possible to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. And they, and they know, like I said, just to reflect on, what things that we needed to work on and just see, what the level of team is going to be like that we see in tournament. And that's something, when we go to our tournament, it's very tough. There are a lot of really tough teams, a lot of them that play in the Federal League. So they're, the level that they see every match is very strong. And, so, I think it's just going to help us get ready for it. And honestly, I wish we could play more of those Federal League teams. I would, I tell the girls that it's only making us better. So.
Your schedule is tough, by the way. You're closing. You have another match with Canfield coming up. You play Louisville again. You play Boardman again this week. How much does your schedule really prepare you for what you see in the tournament?
You know what? I think we do have a strong schedule. Those teams you just mentioned, they're all good teams. You know, and I tell the girls, we can't just look at their records and go into it. And you know, and just like with Perry this past weekend, that's what I told them. You know, you look at their record, and you know they've had a handful of losses, but still, you look at how strong they are. And when teams are playing other tough teams, and I know Boardman and Canfield both have had strong schedules that they've followed this season too. So you know, they're all preparing and you know, or my girls have set goals to, you know, they want to win that conference, and they're working for it, but they know they have to work hard against those teams to get it.
What kind of things in the last couple weeks do you really want to see your team maybe improve on, or things that you want to sharpen up before tournaments start?
Definitely, you know, just defense. I mean, that was what got us for sure against Perry, working on, you know, our blocking and being smarter when we're hitting. And, you know, we had that big block up there. We need to make sure that, you know, we're going around it but keeping it in play. And I think that's where we struggle. We were seeing the block, we were trying to avoid it, and we had a lot of hitting errors. We're hitting a lot out of bounds. So those are things that we're going to work on and get ready for.
And you've been with Austintown Fitch Volleyball for a long time. What kind of makes you proud to be a part of that school system and to kind of represent Fitch and to just be a part of that program?
You know what, it's been ever since I had any experience with Fitch Volleyball. Like I said, was back when I coached under Tom Case, and that was in 2000, 2001. And that was when I actually got hired at Austintown. I'm also a teacher here in the district, so I've been here for 20 years now, and it's just been great. I took some time off when I had my children, and when I came back, I coached at the middle school, and I was at Austintown Middle School with one of the 8th grade teams for 6 years before I moved up to the high school. And I'm now going on my 6th year here, and it's been great. It's been really fun to see those kids and, you know, see them go through middle school, through high school. And some of the girls that I have now, I've had them since they were in 5th grade. You know, I've worked with them, so a lot of them I've had in class. So it's been really awesome. And I think Austintown is a great district. I'm really proud to teach here and happy to be able to coach these girls.
And Coach, real quick, Coach is nothing without the assistants and the staff that you have. So take a minute to talk about the people on your staff and what they help you do and how much they help grow the program as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it starts from the very bottom up. I mean, my middle school coaches, I have a great middle school coach, Jody Baylor. She actually played for Tom Case years ago, and you know, her teams, both 7th and 8th grade, she coaches the red teams. Both of them won the conference last year, and her team's done real good again this year, so we'll see how they do. We added a new coach, Alexis Egler, who's our other middle school coach, and she actually played at YSU and has a lot of great experience and is doing a great job for us. And then at the high school, my JV coach, Coach Chiera, she's a teacher at the high school as well, and she does a great job with her team, and she does a great job assisting me with the girls. And then I have 2 coaches at the freshman level, Darius Binion and Vince Smith, and they do a great job too. I think, you know, we all kind of have the same mindset and what we expect from our kids, and we make them work hard. And they're all very knowledgeable in the sport, and they all do a great job. I'm very fortunate to have the staff that I do.
Coach, I am so glad to hear that Alexi Egler is doing good things for you. I miss watching her play at YSU. Such a fun player to watch, and I know she's a great coach because I've seen kind of the things that she does for the volleyball players now at YSU. When she goes to a game, she'll stay after and talk to a lot of them about what they're doing and try to coach them up as an alum. So I'm really happy to hear that she's doing great things for you.
Yeah, I was really happy to be able to add her to my staff this year. She's a great asset for sure.
Coach, thank you so much for taking time. I know your time is so valuable, and we appreciate hearing from you and hearing about the Fitch Volleyball program.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right, bye, Coach.
Bye.
That was Coach Jody Bartlett of the 13-2 Austintown Fitch Falcons. They play Poland tonight. And then on YSN on Thursday night, I'll be there at Boardman as they take on the Spartans. And it's going to be a fun week for Fitch as they try to gear up to tournaments. That schedule is so tough. And I'm kind of excited to see how they bounce back against a loss because, as I said, it's a very up-and-coming Poland team, and they've kind of figured things out. They beat Girard last week, a very strong team. So we'll see how both those teams kind of compete tonight. And we're actually going to take a break, and we'll be right back on a Monday edition of Running Point on YSN.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Ruud gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Ruud, and so should you.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Running Point. I am obviously not Ron Podesta, as he has the day off. I'm Anthony Hartwig taking over for the day, and we've had a fun show so far. We've recapped Week 6 a little bit with DJ Yoakley in Hour 1, and we also have talked to Salem volleyball coach Casey Costel. She called in earlier, and we just got done talking to Jody Bartlett, the head coach over of Austintown Fitch Volleyball, who is 13-2 on this season, one of the more impressive teams in the area, one of the teams that I think has a valid chance to make a tournament run. Their tournament's tough for sure, and we talked about it with Coach. They could run into Perry, who they just lost to over the weekend, but I think that'll be a good matchup for them because they know what Perry's going to bring to the table now. I mean, she said it. Perry's got a really strong block. They got a good right side hitter, which is something you don't see a lot in high school. You don't see a lot of really strong right side hitters because usually it's just a defensive specialist that you kind of put in there just to have maybe 3 or 4 swings as a match. But it's going to be very fun to see Austintown Fitch in the tournament because that tournament in Division II is just high-level volleyball night in and night out. I mean, we see it in their schedule. Some of the teams that they play, it's a gauntlet of teams that run systems, they run slides, they run a lot of plays that you just don't see when you go down into the different levels of volleyball in the area. So it's very fun to watch. We've had the privilege of having Austintown Fitch on several times on the network, and we're going to have them again on this week as they play Boardman on Thursday. It's just it's very fun volleyball to watch. If you're trying to get into volleyball and you want to see what volleyball is all about, you should definitely tune in to Thursday night Boardman against Fitch because those are two teams that run a lot of different sets, and they have both senior leadership that they're able to do that, and they're able to do that efficiently. And it's just high-level volleyball. It's very very fun to watch. We have two more coaches coming in on the show today. Coming up at 2:15, we'll talk to Alyssa Birch, the head coach of Boardman Volleyball. And then rounding things out, we'll talk to TJ Irons at 2:30, the head coach of South Range, who's we've talked about so many teams who are figuring things out as the season goes on, and South Range is definitely one of those teams. They don't have a lot of senior leadership. In fact, they have one senior, and that's Izzy Lamparty. Great senior to have, but they've been plugging people into new roles. They've dealt with a couple of injuries along the way, and they've had to ask their young kids to kind of adjust on the fly. And they've done that well, and they've had a really good week of volleyball. They beat Mooney on Monday. They beat Hubbard, who is a team they lost to earlier in the season, on Tuesday. And then they beat a really strong Girard team on Thursday. So they had a really good week, and it gets really hard this week. They have a week off, and then they go to Lakeview to play the undefeated Bulldogs in Cortland. And one of the biggest home court advantages you can have in volleyball is Lakeview, because they have a very small gym. It's old. It gets hot really quick, and you have to be really conditioned to go into Cortland and beat the Bulldogs, because they're probably going to take you to 5 if you beat them, and 5 sets in that sweatbox, that is a lot to ask, especially when the team in front of you is so used to playing in there. They're practicing there during the summers, which I think has to be a new form of torture to try to practice in the summers in that gym with no air conditioning. And Crestvew's like that too, but the thing about Crestview's gym is it's a lot bigger, so it doesn't get quite as hot, quite as fast. That Lakeview heat in that gym will sneak up on you really quick. So we have a fun show as we kind of climb into the last hour of Running Point. As we approach 2 o'clock, we'll have, once again, Alyssa Birch calling in at 2:15, head coach of the Boardman Spartans volleyball team. Until then, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline is open, 330-886-0813. Call in. We'll talk about, well, whatever your heart desires. I mean, we have a lot of high school football we could talk about. We have playoffs we could talk about. If you want to talk about volleyball, let's do that. Let's have a call in about some volleyball teams that you've watched. So the hotline is open until about 2:15, and then we're going to be talking to Coach Birch and Coach Irons to close up the show. So as we talk a little bit more about Week 6, we've touched on a couple of teams that have looked really impressive, and now we start to get ready for playoffs. And one of the things about YSN that is just so great, and we talked about it with DJ in the first hour, we're going to be the only really show in town during the playoffs, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure every playoff game that we have in the YSN Nation, that wall over there that you see, about half of it, all those teams except a couple of them that have opted out of the playoffs are having a game or having a bye week. And we're going to be traveling. We're going to have announcers pull double duty. But we're going to do whatever it takes to get as many playoff games covered as possible. Live, video streamed, $9.99 gets you every playoff game. I mean, I just don't know how you can beat that. It's basically the ticket of admittance to one game gets you. I think we have 21 playoff games this weekend across the network. I think 8 on Friday night, 13 on Saturday. We have Audible Call going to be with Mike Ackelson on Friday and Saturday, and it's going to be a fun week of playoffs. We have a lot of good matchups. One of the ones that I'm kind of excited about, we talked about Jackson Milton earlier. I believe they play Western Reserve. Maybe Western Reserve plays Columbiana. I'm not sure on that. I'm going to have to look up the brackets. But there are a lot of fun. I'm also excited about Martins Ferry. Martins Ferry, who showed a lot of respect to a Jefferson team, who I want to give a shout-out to, because Jefferson went to Lakeview. It's a tough place to play down in Cortland. And although both teams are struggling, Jefferson kind of left no doubt on the field that they were the better no-win team. And they went to Jefferson. They went to Lakeview, and they beat the Bulldogs in decisive fashion. And that was Jefferson's first win in about 2 years. So they've gotten close a couple of times, and I think that's why when you look at how Martins Ferry voted in the playoff polls, I think that's why they voted Jefferson kind of high. I think they voted in the 16 seed because I think Martins Ferry kind of looked at Jefferson's schedule compared to their schedule, and they saw that winless or not, Jefferson was going to be dangerous, because you look at the teams Jefferson has to play. We talk about it with South Range all the time in Division 5. Jefferson's Division 5 too. So they're playing up every season, every week in their schedule. They're playing up. They're playing Hubbard. They're playing Poland. They're playing Struthers. They're playing Niles. I mean, it's a gauntlet in the NE8 for the smaller teams like Jefferson, like South Range. And you look at Jefferson, and they were a team that, man, they were so close against Hubbard. They were right there. And Hubbard's a dang good football team. And they blocked a punt late, and they had it set up 1st and goal from the 7 with 4 chances to win that game. And one, you got to give props to the Hubbard defense for that quick change stop. But also, it proves to me that Jefferson can compete, especially with some of the teams in Division 5 that don't exactly match up schedule-wise to what Jefferson has to do. I would not be surprised at all if Jefferson went on the road this week and won a playoff game. Because of their schedule, because they are coming off a win in Week 6, they're feeling each other out. They're hyped up for their first win in a long time. Ed Rankin does a great job leading that bunch down there in Jefferson. And like I said, I would just not be surprised if they went down to Martins Ferry, who obviously respects them because of how they voted, and they got a playoff win. How huge would that be for that program to come off an 0-10 season, to struggle this season their way through a 1-5 record, and then go win a playoff game? I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's so great that everyone gets in the playoffs, because that could be a program-defining win for Jefferson if they go in and they win a playoff game. Probably their first playoff win in a while. I mean, I don't know exactly how long it's been since Jefferson won a playoff game. Certainly it wasn't recently, because they've come off a 0-10 season last year. So to come off and obviously be a rebuilding stage, and I don't care who you're playing, if you win a playoff game, that's just different. That is different. That is respect, and that is something that you can take with you as you go forward in building your program. You can really use it as a buying tool if you're a coach, and I'm sure Coach Rankin will definitely use it as a buying tool if they went down there and beat Martins Ferry, and be one of those moments where you could say, if you buy in to what we're doing, if you buy in to my program and my philosophy, eventually things will turn around and we will win and we will compete. And if you go down and you beat a playoff team that's seeded a lot higher than you, I mean, Jefferson, I think, is the 25 seed, so they're playing the second highest seed in the Division 5 playoffs, and Martins Ferry that's playing this week. So if you go down there and you beat a team that has a lot of people's respect by voting them in the top 15, then I think that would be a very program-defining turning around of the program kind of win for the Falcons, and we're gonna be there. So that's one of the other reasons why we're gonna be there for that game, and I think I would not be surprised if the Falcons come away with a win. Another team that I wouldn't be surprised if they snuck in a playoff win at all, Cardinal Mooney. I mean, I know they've struggled. They've struggled their way through, once again, we talked about a Western Reserve, coaching changes throughout the year, a last-minute coaching change to get Carl Pelini in there, and they've played a gauntlet of a schedule, and they've struggled their way through it. But they're talented, they're big, they're physical, they're athletic, and when someone that hasn't played the schedule that they play runs into them, the same way we talked about Jefferson's schedule, they might be running into a buzzsaw. They might be running into a Cardinal Mooney buzzsaw. And if Cardinal Mooney wins 2 or 3 playoff games, I wouldn't be surprised. If they can just get into that, we talked about it with Billy Mack about the Browns, the winning culture. And if they can just kind of get into that winning mentality and make those game-winning type plays, the ones that they had chances to make against Ursuline, by the way. Very close game against a strong Ursuline team. They only lost 28-23. They just didn't make the game-winning type plays. So if in the playoffs they find a way to make those game-winning type plays against, I'm not going to knock their opponents in the playoffs. They're still good teams. They just didn't play the schedule that they played. If they can make those game-winning plays and change that culture, change that mentality into a winning mentality, Cardinal Mooney can really be a problem in the playoffs. So can all the other teams that play the type of schedule that Mooney does. We're talking about Cheney. We're talking about East. We're talking about Boardman. We're talking about those teams that the record, you look at their record, they struggled, but then you look at their schedule and you say, wow, they might be built to win playoff games because of the teams that they've had to play in the regular season. Boardman's another team finished strong. They competed against Canfield a little bit. They lost that game. But what about, you go into the playoffs after playing Canfield, one of the toughest teams in the area, period. Does that not get you ready for a first-round playoff game? I think it does. No one you're going to see in the first round of playoffs is going to play you like Canfield does. I think that absolutely gets you ready. I wouldn't be surprised. Boardman wins their first playoff game. So many teams understand in this area, that you have to play up to succeed. And I understand in this season that, some teams have been conformed to only conference games, and you can only do what you can do in your conference. But the teams that have been able to go out and schedule even one non-conference game and go in and even if they take their lumps, they kind of learn what it takes to play at that level. Brookfield's an example. Brookfield had one non-conference game. They could have used it to get an automatic win. They could have said, hey, we're going to build up confidence. But they went and played Garfield. And, yeah, they got their butts kicked against Garfield. But it's a coaching experience. It's a chance for them to learn what it's going to take, what they have to change, what they have to do right to win a game against a team like that. And, Brookfield's always tough in the playoffs because of the fact that they like to muddy up games. And the run game, as much as we've seen quarterbacks succeed this regular season, and we've seen a lot of quarterbacks throwing for 250-plus yards, in the playoffs, it just seems like it's always different. The weather gets colder, the wind gets up, and all of a sudden the running game becomes so much more important. And the teams like Brookfield that have a foundation of physical play and big offensive line, and we're going to pound you, they could have advantages in playoffs just because of that fact. Playoffs are different. And they will be different for teams that have that old school smash mouth mentality that we talked about with Billy Mack when he brought up Garfield. Garfield, much like, I love that he brought the South Range comparison, because South Range, not just the way they play football, but the fact that they're an established program that is built on consistently winning. That is exactly what Garfield is. Garfield is always in the playoffs. They're always succeeding. They have a coaching staff that has been there for a long time. And when you look at Garfield, that's one of the reasons why they're consistently succeeding, because they have players that not just buy into the coaching program, but they buy into the school system because they're homegrown. He said it. They've had kids that have been in Garfield since they were elementary school kids. So they have kids that kind of not just buy into the coach's philosophy, but they buy into representing that high school. And that's kind of one of the things you see a lot with the smaller public schools in the area, like a Lisbon or a Beaver Local, for example. They buy into winning for their school. West Branch is another great example. The school spirit and the pride that those kids have in just succeeding for their school system, not just succeeding for themselves or succeeding for their college aspirations, but succeeding for their program, their school. That mentality is something that you can't really measure. And it's something that some of these schools end up succeeding consistently because they've built that into their program. They've built this foundation of winning for your team instead of winning for yourself. And I think Coach Yeagley has done a great job with that at South Range. I was firsthand experiencing that when I was in school there, and I got to, hang out with the football players who wanted to win because they wanted South Range to win, period. They wanted their school system to win. They didn't want to win because they were putting up stats. They didn't want to win because they were getting recruited. They wanted to win because they cared about the program. And you're seeing that kind of drop off, especially in some of the bigger schools in the state where kids are more focused on making highlight tapes and getting noticed, and they don't really worry about winning for the school that they go to. But when you're here in this area, I think what makes it so special, you have so many schools that have athletes that just genuinely care about whether or not their school system succeeds. And that's what makes some of these schools really dangerous come playoff time, because, hey, they're going up against teams that might not have any respect for them, that haven't ever heard of a team that they play for. And it's kind of respect, not just for you guys as a football team, it's also respect for your school system to say, hey, we're like United. We're in Hanoverton. You're going to know about us in the playoffs. You're going to know about us. You're going to look up Hanoverton. You're going to be saying, where did that team come from? Oh, well, that kind of respect and that kind of care for just the success of your school system really shines in these playoff games where you're traveling outside of the area to schools that may have never even heard of you. I remember there has been so many times at South Range where we go out to play a team from out of state, or not out of state, but out of county or out of the area in a tournament game, even though we're pretty established as whatever sport it may be, whether it be basketball, softball, baseball. We have established programs at South Range, and they would say, where the heck is South Range? And when you hear that as an athlete, I imagine that it's one of those firing tools that you say, well, you're going to know where we're from, and you're going to understand where we're coming from, and you're going to give us respect because we're going to come to this field and we're going to beat you. And nothing gives respect like someone beating you on your home field. So I'm excited for playoffs. I'm excited for these teams that we've mentioned that have that gritty, blue collar almost need to see their school go out and win and compete. And I'm looking at this wall trying to pick out other teams that have that mentality. And how about Crestview? I mean, we talked about teams that have gone through adversity and come out the other way. Crestview's 5-1. You might look at that record and say, what kind of adversity have they gone through? Well, they got beat up by a team that they destroyed last year in week 1. It was probably embarrassing for that team to go out there against a champion team who, no knock against champion. They've definitely improved over Coach McGlynn, but it was a team that Crestview beat by 30 plus last season, and they probably went into that game thinking, okay, we're going to sort of wipe the table with these guys. Let's get on to the rest of our conference schedule. Let's focus on, the LeBrays of the world. Let's try to, keep a step up on Brookfield, and Champion beat them. And it was because of the sloppiness of Crestview, and Crestview kind of, I think, went into week 2 wanting to prove to themselves that they were a lot better than what they saw in week 1. They were angry. They were frustrated. They let out all that aggression out in week 2. But then when you watch them here in week 6, they're still playing angry. They're still winning at the line of scrimmage. They're finishing runs like, they're falling forward. They're playing angry football because they realize that they want their school, their Crestview brand, to get the respect that maybe they felt like they lost when they lost against Champion. Maybe they went into that loss and they said, we're not going to let people think that Crestview has taken a step down. And I'm sure there are some people, maybe even in the Power Hour column, that after week 1 were thinking, hey, Crestview's going to take a step down. They're not what they used to be. They're not the proud program that Coach Cusick has brought up. And then now that you see them, you go, wow, Crestview might be something to watch out for in the playoffs. They got a bye, barely. They got that 6th seed, so they got the last bye given out, and they have a week to kind of get healthy. But that run game, they're playing Coach Cusick football, and that's what's great about programs that have been established. You can see the style just stick there, and I think Coach Cusick does a good job of kind of meshing the fact that he has his own philosophy and he has his own style of football, but then he also takes what he has and he puts them in positions to succeed. Because some coaches, you'll see them fall in love with their scheme, and they'll make, no matter what player they come in through their program, they'll make them try to conform to that scheme. And on the flip side, when you see coaches kind of adjust to who they have, that's when those coaches succeed. We're going to go to the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Welcome to Running Point. This is Anthony Hartwig. Is this Coach Birch?
Yes, it is. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much, Coach, for calling in. This is Alyssa Birch of Boardman Spartans Volleyball, and we're excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So when we talk about Boardman, we've talked to so many coaches today, and Boardman's another team that is so senior-led. You have 7 seniors on the team. What's it like seeing a team that has so much leadership out on the floor every night?
Well, what I think is most unique to this situation is that us having 7 seniors, this is actually the first time in all of their 4 years that all 7 of them have been on the court together at one time. We had a couple seniors their freshman year get pulled up. We had some girls take a year off for different reasons. Some girls had injuries. So this is actually like the first time as a class that they've been able to play together.
So when you say that, I mean, it's unique because you've probably had to see, even though they're seniors, you've had to see them kind of get in sync and gel as a group as the season has gone along.
Yes, absolutely. A couple of the girls have transitioned into different positions, different roles. Some of them we've only looked to in the past as front row players or back row players, vice versa. So we've made a lot of transitions this year just so that they all could play together and be together.
You guys are 9-6 on the year, and we talked to Jody Bartlett from Fitch a little bit ago. Your schedule is just like Fitch, where you guys play a lot of really good volleyball teams.
Yeah.
And what's this schedule kind of been like going through it and trying to fight through adversity and coming out with some big wins as well?
Well, exactly probably how Jody put it. It seems like, one day we can beat a team 3-0, and the next day we come in and we lose 3-0. But I see those as opportunities. Like Saturday, for instance, we played a very tall and big team from Hoban, and we were able to stay with it every single game. And although we fell 3-0, like that game, I know we got better. Like those are the matches that I want to play and I want to see our girls compete in, because I think that only benefits us coming here in the next couple of weeks for tournament time.
We had you a little bit ago on YSN, your game against Canfield, where you dropped down 2-0 and you came back and won that match in 5. What do you think that kind of match and that kind of shift in coming back was kind of maybe a turning point for your season, where your girls kind of realized what their potential was and they realized how special they could be on the court when things are going right?
Absolutely. I feel like we needed that so bad. I feel like as a coach, we've needed that for like 2 years. Like, sometimes you feel like how much more, like, can you tell your girls and show your team, like, what you value in them and what you think they're capable of. At some point, they just have to go out there and do it for themselves. And I felt like everybody, like, that was just a game that everybody came together. We used everybody, and everybody stepped up in every moment, every situation that we needed them to. And I think that was a big confidence booster. That was a big morale booster. And I think, as a team it was, but individually, I think for a lot of people it was too, because they had it in their heads that we had never beaten Canfield, their whole time in high school. So, I think to kind of get that out of their system and out of the way was really important.
You talked about your seniors and how some of them haven't been on the court. One of those seniors that I've had the privilege of talking to and having a player profile with was Maria Torres, who, man, she is just built for toughness, the adversity that she's had to face throughout her high school career.
Yeah.
What's it been like seeing her healthy again her senior year and really kind of going out with a bang?
It's been amazing. I feel like, for her freshman and sophomore year, I was the JV coach at that time, and I had a relationship with Maria, but not as a coach, but kind of, as a cheerleader on the sidelines. And, I was so excited to get the head job and know that I was going to have a player like Maria on my team, and to hear about, her injury again. I know how much it was devastating to me, and I know how much it affected her. And it's just been amazing to watch her go out there and have fun. And she brings such a spark and an energy. She's such a big part of our team. And I know the girls love playing with her, not just because she's an amazing volleyball player, but she's fun to be around, and she brings the energy and she brings the jokes, and she's just a big part of our chemistry.
Not everyone can come back from what she came back from. What is it about her mentality or just about her as a person that you think helped her come back from the adversity that she had to face?
I think Maria is really good at not taking herself so seriously, and I could value in a moment, in a week, whatever the situation is, you could tell Maria exactly what's up, good or bad, and she can appreciate that. So I know that she's had lots of people in her corners, the past 2 years just cheering her on, and, I think that she builds off of that, and she needs that, and she just loves to compete. So I don't think much is going to stop Maria and hasn't stopped Maria from competing.
You have a couple of young players on your team, too, that have stepped up in big roles, and what's it been like seeing kind of the young players gel with the 7 seniors that you have on the squad?
Well, on varsity right now, we have Jenna Alexa, who's like the lone junior. But Jenna's really experienced. She was our starter last year as a sophomore and played mostly around 6 rotations. So she kind of fits in with them. I kind of consider her, to be an upperclassman too. She's extremely experienced, and we're going to be looking to her a ton next year as being, one of the only returners back to varsity. And Cameron Duritza has really just, I can't think of a better definition of a teammate than Cam. She's a sophomore, and she's on varsity right now as our backup setter. We've had a lot of interesting scenarios this year with OSHA and rules on girls competing in different sports per day. Our senior setter, Reagan Berkey, is also a highly competitive cross-country runner, so she kind of manages her time in 2 different places. So Cam for us is invaluable. I mean, when Reagan's not there, we need her, but we also look to Cam as our future. So she's been really awesome in the roles that she's had as well.
And we broadcasted your game against Middle Ridge last Saturday, and the Middle Ridge is a strong team, and you had to ask Cameron to come on and be your setter for that game.
Yeah.
Was that one of those moments where you realized that she was going to be fine in the future, and you guys kind of the future is looking good when you have your setter taken care of like that?
Sure, absolutely. I think, aside from her small size, I don't think that you would know that Cam is a sophomore, maybe doesn't have that much experience on the court. I think she does a really good job communicating with her hitters, and she's like that setter that's just so open-minded. And if something doesn't go right in the moment, like she'll look to her hitters and say, what can I do? What's better for next time? And I think that's so exciting moving forward that, we have somebody like her so open-minded and so easy to work with. Like Cam just loves volleyball and just loves to be there.
I imagine that ability to just kind of come in when she's needed comes from an amazing practice mentality and an amazing work ethic. What's the team like when in practices? Because you don't get to practice a lot in volleyball because you have 4 games a week sometimes. Yeah. So when they do get into the gym and work on things, what's the kind of chemistry like?
Well, someone for Cam, for instance, manages her time in 2 different places. We, as you mentioned, because it's just not a lot of time. Oftentimes in the week, we kind of split up our practice times, and we're a little bit staggered so that every team has some individual time, but we also have some time together as a group. We try to manage that as best that we can. And this year, we've been fortunate enough that our freshmen have been traveling with us a lot. That hasn't always been the case in the past. But we do have a pretty regimented practice schedule, and it's posted daily, and the girls kind of come in and know what to expect beforehand. So I think that really helps with our mental readiness every day at practice.
When you have moments like that, when you do get together and you get to travel with your freshmen, how much does that help you? I mean, going forward, the team chemistry and the team kind of mentality, because when I've talked to some of your players so far in our player profiles, they've said team chemistry has been better than it has been in a couple of years. So is that kind of one of the things that contributes to you guys having such a tight-knit group this year?
I think so, absolutely. I've been in the program since 2006 when I graduated high school, and there's been times where the freshmen have been together, and there's been times where the freshmen haven't. And I think it's super important that we obviously look to each individual teams as trying to be successful, but ultimately, my goal as a head coach is to always take care of the program. And I think of that all the way, 7th grade, 8th grade. This year, before
COVID happened, I was really looking forward to having like a 5th and 6th grade league, like locally, just to start to get it out into the community, that we are a program where, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we think of everything when we think of Boardman volleyball.
Talk real quick about your assistants and the coaching staff that you have and the people that kind of, you get all the praise as a head coach, but I know that you can't do it without that support system.
For sure. My assistant on the bench with me during the varsity games is Jen Krebs, and we got together coaching 4 years ago when I was still coaching JV, and she's actually came on as a volunteer, just somebody who's really interested in volleyball. She has kids, 3 sons within the community, and, was just looking to stay involved and be a part of something she really loves. And through coaching, I didn't know her prior, and now, she's not just like my assistant. She's, one of my really good friends, and we just see coaching and life a lot, the same. And she brings just like a balance and a calmness, and she's just one of those people who understands relationships. So she's kind of that person on the bench that's just managing those situations. She's really good at knowing the girls and knowing when, they're really on or when they're rattled, and, when they can come off the bench. She's like that perfect person to, just have a conversation with, figure out what's going on. And she's really good at motivating the girls, and getting them ready to come back into the game.
And you said it,
go ahead.
Yeah, you can continue.
And then Martina Danello, I had known her prior to either of us even being coaches, but last year we spent a lot of time together when she was the head coach at Poland, and we ran some summer camps together and then did a lot of practices with both of our girls. And when she stepped down from Poland, and our JV coach from last year got a job in another district as a teacher, she was the first person I knew right away that I wanted to call. And I think what's so invaluable about Martina is that she knows what is required of a head coach. And, she knows about the not so fun things like stats and paperwork and bus schedules and, all of those things. And, at the end of the night when she'll hand me over the stat sheet, or she'll say that, I made this phone call, like those are the things to me that are just like, oh, like, thank you for recognizing, like those little things. And she sees volleyball from even like a different perspective, than I did. And she's really good in the game about watching what the other team is doing. And sometimes I get so, wrapped up in what's happening on our side of the court that it's really awesome to have that perspective that she brings. And Caitlin Steeb is our freshman coach, and Caitlin is, she's been our freshman coach for 3 years now, and she's also a teacher with me here at Boardman. So it's really, really awesome that she's here in the building with me, and it makes it easy, transitioning to practice after school, the buses. Caitlin just teaches freshmen. She's a freshman English teacher, so I think it's so beneficial to the girls that they have a relationship with her all summer. They're coming into a new place, and then there's a really good chance that Coach Steve is their English teacher, and I think that helps make their transition into high school a lot easier.
And you guys have a unique setup because your gym is big enough where you can play freshman and JV games at the same time. What's that kind of experience like when you get to kind of, you can walk over and watch freshmen for a minute, then you can walk over and watch JV for a minute, and there's that camaraderie where you're both kind of playing at the same time.
It's crazy when we're setting up the gym and stuff beforehand, but I think it kind of helps with the environment. I don't know how many freshman volleyball games you've been to, but sometimes they don't always bring, maybe the fans that would be at the upper level games. But I think, there's something about playing in a louder gym where you hear those cheers, you hear your teammates. I think that really helps. And our varsity team they're working both of those games, and they rotate and they take turns, and they're keeping score and they're working at the tables. And I think that helps. I think that's nice for the girls, the underclassmen, to know, that the upperclassmen are there and they're watching them, and, they're working for them and rooting them on.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you calling in and talking about your program and catching up with Boardman volleyball.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach, have a good rest of the day.
You too.
That was Coach Alyssa Birch of the Boardman Spartans. And you've heard it. You talked about Boardman. Their schedule is going to prepare them for the tournament. And we talked about Maria Torres a lot just because, she's gone through more than a lot of players in high school have to go through. A couple of knee injuries. She's bounced back from them. She's completely healthy this season. And you can tell that she's been building up and she's been ready to finally be healthy. Because the energy that she brings to the court and the power in her swing, her jump is as electric as it was in her freshman season when everyone kind of saw her and saw what she could be before the injuries that she had to go through. So it's very fun to kind of listen to what she means to that team. And we have no rest for the weary as we're going to be joined by South Range head coach TJ Irons. Well, you are on Running Point with Anthony Hartwig. Is this Coach Irons?
This is.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in and talk about your volleyball program.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And you are someone that has experience as a volleyball coach. It's been a minute, but you kind of went back to volleyball after a kind of hiatus out of volleyball. What drew you back to volleyball to take over this program this year?
Yeah, I mean, volleyball has always been a big part of my life. Started in high school and all through college it was there. And then starting at South Range, as I got here, I got hired as a third grade teacher, and it just so happened the third grade teacher was also the volleyball coach. So it fit in perfect there in 2000 when I got here, and I did it till around 2008, and then had a young family and some things came up, just decided to step away for a while. But I have a son who's played basketball, and I got to be a part of that. I have 3 daughters that all love volleyball, and I'm lucky enough right now to have Emily, who graduated last year, but set for the Raiders for the past few years. She's on our staff. Reagan is a junior, and she's our libero. And then my youngest daughter, Allie, is a 7th grader. And I can tell you that, we didn't have a coach at South Range hired when we went into the quarantine for COVID-19. And that whole time I had my 3 daughters and probably my wife, too, working me pretty hard about, why don't you get back in the coaching? And the more they talked to me about it, the more I got excited about it. And that was probably the biggest reason was, they kind of talked me into it. And then as I thought more about it, volleyball just always kind of been a part of me, and I was excited to get back into it.
You coached for 8 years from 2000 to 2008, and it's been 12 years since then. What kind of ways has the game kind of evolved since you stepped down the first time?
Well, I can tell you the girls seem to be overall a lot more skilled. I know there's a lot more opportunities now for them to be playing in the off season as far as club and things like that. But I think just overall the coaching seems to be a lot stronger. I think the players are just overall more skilled. I think just because they're getting more opportunities to play. Teams are deeper. It's definitely changed that way. The game just is sped up a little bit because of the skill level.
What was the club scene and the JO scene like back in the early 2000s when you coached?
We typically, in our program, 9 through 12, I would say, had maybe 1 to 3 girls that played. And the other thing that we were dealing with here at South Range when I was finishing up is we were just starting our girls soccer program. And, our girls soccer program is so good, and it's so fun to go watch them play. But at that time, we were even smaller than we are now, and we were kind of, dividing up a lot of the girl athletes were starting to divide up. So you also had that going on, which didn't give us, a whole lot of girls that were just specifically volleyball girls. So that was one of the challenges. But, it's a lot different for sure.
You had some talented players back in the day. How many of your old players kind of reached out when they heard that you got the job and were excited that you were back with the volleyball program?
Well, you're going to make me feel old because, one of them, I had her daughter last year, and she I had her daughter in class, and she reached out right away and just was excited about it. Another girl that's in our Hall of Fame. Actually, both those girls were our setters on the championship year we had. and that was Becky Scourin and Anna Waldell. They reached out right away. Kelly Skriniar was another one of our setters, and her mom still works with us doing the book. So they reached out when they heard, and I've gotten a few, text messages and emails and things. It's been kind of, good to hear from them.
And in the last decade, this program has been very successful, whether it's getting to the district championship or winning it. Coach Rachel Baker came in 2013 and really changed the culture at South Range. What was it like when you took the realm of this program and you knew how much success it has had, and you knew that you kind of were stepping into a program that knew how to win?
Sure. It's, looking back at when Coach Baker was coaching, if I'm honest, I'll tell you that my daughter was super excited. Emily was super excited to play for Coach Baker, and I think she kind of got into the same mode I did with her family growing, and she decided to leave. But some of the teams she had here were just absolutely incredible. And I think when I look at some of the girls coming into the program now that were little, like my daughter Emily and Reagan, and they saw that, so they decided that volleyball was going to be, a big part of what they do. So that was great. And watching Emily, through her career and the success that she had with, Coach Kamara and Coach Lucklin, it's great. And I can also tell you that the young girls this year, from the minute that they stepped in the gym, they absolutely they wanted to be a part of it. And you've seen enough of our games to see that we're a pretty young team, but those girls have earned those spots. So it's been pretty neat to be a part of this now, and after the tradition that Coach Baker and those other coaches they've set a high standard, that's for sure.
And we've talked to a couple coaches today, and they've all had a lot of seniors on their team. You're the opposite, where you have one senior on the team, and you've had to ask a lot of young players to step into big roles. What's that been like from your perspective as a coach, to kind of throw some young players into the Lions' Den and see them kind of make adjustments on the fly? And at least for the last week, they've been playing extremely well.
Sure. It's a neat thing. And as a coach, you love to see that youth, and you love to see that excitement. And like I said, they had that coming in. I mean, they absolutely, you just tell they love volleyball and they want to be a part of it. The other side of that is, with youth and with that excitement also just comes mistakes and errors. And, a lot of these girls were, they're playing against 8th graders last year at this time, and now they're playing against, seniors from Boardman that are just, in a Division I school. So I think I had to be patient with some of the stuff there. We got to the game against Lakeview, and I think the paper asked me about it, and I said, we're a young team, but at the same time, we're halfway through our season. We got to stop using that as an excuse. And I think these girls took that to heart, and they started to realize, we can't just keep using that as an excuse that we're young and we're going to keep making these mistakes. I mean, they really have stepped up. Julia Blasco on the outside, Sarah Coons, both freshmen. Maddie Dado has stepped in for Maria Primavera, who's, was second on our team in kills. She had to step in for her. We have Maddie Mook, who's a freshman that's coming in to serve. So she's tough. And then also, aside from the freshmen, you look at someone like, Bree Heiner, who's just absolutely been a spark plug for us. You look at a girl like, Julie Stakowitz, who's only a sophomore. Jamie Farron, who's only a sophomore. Our setters are a freshman and a sophomore who have zero varsity experience coming into this year. And right now, like you said, last week, I think they made some of the best decisions that they've made all year. And then you start working your way up to the upperclassmen with Hannah Hakinen and Sarah Sauerwein and my daughter Reagan in the back, passing as a libero. And then without Izzy, our only senior, she, without her dominating the net and kind of leading by example of what you need to be doing, we wouldn't be where we're at right now either. She's not a really big vocal leader. It's just not kind of what she does. But she gets out there, and when I challenge her a little bit and say, look, you're the only senior on this team, all of a sudden she'll get 3 blocks, 4 kills, and all of a sudden we're right back in a match. So, it's just been a fun team to coach because they listen. They're to the point now where instead of just playing with each other, you can see them starting to play for each other, and they're communicating so much better. it's just a really, really fun group to be around right now.
And last week, you guys had one of the shockers of the volleyball season when you went and not only beat Girard, but you swept a very good, a very talented young Girard team. Do you think that might be, when you look back at the end of the season, and maybe if you guys have some success, that game might be one of the times when you look at the turning point of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. You hope, I guess, at this point of the year that you kind of start peaking. And the other thing that we consistently talk about our team with is when you play somebody twice, you've got to play them better the second time. And I think we've done that every time except possibly Jefferson. And at times we played well against Jefferson. We had 2 middle sets where we just played awful. But the first and the last game, we played pretty well. But like you said, then we come in and we play Mooney, and we beat him 3-0. And then Hubbard comes in, who had beat us 3-0 over there, and we beat them 3-0. And then same with Girard that same week. It was a rough week for us. We lost 3-0 up at Girard, and this time we beat them 3-0. And they were all just excellent sets. I mean, they were 28-26, 26-24, 26-24. So I think both sides were getting close. I know we were getting close every time. They're running out of subs because there was just a lot of side outs and going back and forth. And I think that also shows a little bit of the growth that our kids have had with not, letting teams string 3 and 4 points together on you. It's okay to you give up one and then you side out and you work your way through. But they've really grown up to learn that we can't be giving up those runs we gave up early in the year.
Coach, you finally get a week off. It feels like you guys played 9 games in 13 days.
Yeah.
So you get a week to kind of get into the gym and work on things, and it comes at a really good time because you got Lakeview this week on Thursday. What kind of things are you working on this week to get ready for the toughest team in the league, to put it mildly, the undefeated Lakeview team?
Absolutely. I mean, when you said we have a week off, it kind of made me laugh, like this is not a week off. But it's like you said, too, we've been playing so much that we haven't been able to have a lot of practices. So, really, we're going to have 3 practices in a row this week. And I can tell you that, today is going to be a big fundamental day. And it's just a lot of things that we haven't had a chance to do because almost every practice you're preparing for the next team. Today, and we'll probably start thinking about Lakeview more tomorrow and then definitely on Wednesday. But today is going to be a lot of fundamentals. We're going to do a lot of passing. We're going to work on defensive combinations, girls together. We're going to work on our blocking footwork a lot today. So a lot of those little details that we don't often get to work on, we're going to hit pretty hard this week.
You're going to be the NE representative today on Running Point because when you look at the conference, it is so young. Lakeview only has 2 seniors. Girard has 3, and you guys have 1, and those are the top 3 teams in the conference. Does that kind of excite you for how competitive this conference is going to be for the next couple of years?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny when you go look at it because, coming back into this as getting back into coaching, I watched all these teams play the past few years, but I didn't always keep track of how old the girls were or this or that. But when I start looking and you look at, you look at Girard and you look at a girl, you say 25, who's that? And you start looking, that's Palone, she's pretty good. And then all of a sudden you're like, sophomore? Holy moly. And then you just look at the different teams. You look at Lakeview, who we got this week, and you say, oh, that Pavlansky girl, she runs the show for them. Like, she's a sophomore. Holy moly, and I hope that people are saying that about us too. And, there's been times this year, and it'll probably happen Thursday against Lakeview, we'll have 4 freshmen on the floor. And that's not by plan or by design, but girls have just earned that. And I think it does. It shows there's some good volleyball that's going to be played here, hopefully for a while in the NE8.
And then, you touched on it. One of the freshmen that came in to replace Maria Primavera in Maddie Dato, she's asked to do a full rotation to kind of replace Maddie Primavera. When we talked about that on the broadcast with Anna, it's such a incredible task to not be a liability at any spot on the floor from a freshman. What can you say about her and stepping into that role?
Well, Maddie is an exceptional athlete and an even better person, and she always is paying attention, and she's very coachable. So when Maria went down against Lakeview, it was obviously something that kind of brought our team down. But Maddie did not get nervous, and you could just, I mean, maybe she was on the inside, but on the outside she didn't show, and she hopped right in the game and did what we needed her to do. But in our serve receive, we basically have a 3-person serve receive, and they serve receive the whole game, which is a lot of pressure on those 3 girls. And right now, of those 3 girls, 2 of them are freshmen, and Maddie is one of them. So she comes along, and what she brings most to our team is just solid serve receive. She's a great defensive player, and I think right now she's a little concerned about her offensive game, and I think because she's such a perfectionist, but it's coming along and she's getting better with that. But the reason that Maddie stepped in and did such a great job for our team is because she's a great passer and she's a great defender, and the moment just wasn't too big for her. So, you know, her and Julia Blasco as freshmen are doing a nice job, and then obviously Reagan Irons, who's back there as our libero, she's passing, you know, 75 to 80% of the balls that come over the net at any time, and she's been a good leader for them back there, just keeping her cool. And I would kind of take her kind of as like Izzy in a way, not really a vocal leader, but always doing what's needed for the team. And this past week, there weren't many balls that hit the floor. I mean, against Girard, I think she had 35 digs, and it was just a 3-set match, which means they're hitting it at us a lot. But also, you know, she's getting better and better as the season goes on. So that's been exciting to watch as a coach and as a dad both. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
And that's just so impressive against a Girard team who might be the hardest hitting team in the conference. When you look at Brie Littell and Lauren Pallone and what they can do with their arm swings and the arm speed, to go up and get 35 digs, that's got to be one of her best performances of the season.
For sure. And I think to have it at that moment was huge. It was huge for her, and it was huge for our team just in a comfort standpoint. You know, she's, as I said, she's just really coming along and playing great right now.
When you talk about Lakeview, because you're playing them on Thursday, what makes them so good and so tough?
They're just they're a solid team all the way around. I mean, I think obviously the first thing coming from a coach, and you know how important the setter position is, and with Pavlansky there, she just absolutely runs the show for them, and it doesn't matter if she's serving, it doesn't matter if it's in a rotation where she's going to get to swing at the ball a little bit, and she hurt us last time a lot dumping the ball. So I think you look at that, but then they really don't. If you're looking at their stats and stuff, I mean the I don't know if it's pronounced Lytle, Lytle, but she's leading them in kills, and she's doing a great job. But they have another girl that's got 99, the Peterson girl that's a senior, and they just they don't have one necessarily girl that you say like the Pallone girl at Girard and the other outside at Girard. They were both girls we worked on last week, but we kind of said, look, wherever she's at, we've got to make sure that we have 2 blockers on her. Period. They have girls all over the place that are just making plays all the time, and they just are a solid team that plays together. And there's probably not another sport where it's so important. I would say, I coach basketball, and I know how important it is for teamwork in that sport. And also I played a lot of football, so that would probably be true there too. But in volleyball, when everybody is playing well, it's really hard to stop a team when they're communicating and playing well together.
You've been a South Range Raider for a long time. You were my 3rd grade teacher, which, wow. What makes you so kind of proud to kind of be a part of the South Range school system and be proud to be a head coach there again?
I can say I've taught in other districts before. I've coached in other districts, but there's just something special. There's something special about South Range, and I think it's the community, it's the community support, it's our staff, it's our administrators, it's our kids. The older kids are there for the younger kids. And you probably remember, and not so much this year, obviously, because we have a lot of different rules, but the high school kids are constantly in the elementary helping out. And then the elementary kids, last year we had a huge pep assembly where all the kids are together, K through 12, and those elementary kids are screaming like crazy when that football team walks out or when that band plays. There's just something special about this community and about the people that are in it. Whether it's, like I said, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the administrators, whether it's the athletes, whether it's the coaches. Everybody just really is proud to be a Raider around here. That's all I can say. You know, it's a great place to be.
And with volleyball, energy is so important, and you brought up the fact that fans can't kind of be there in the same capacity. But, you know, the team can't really do what they usually do with the huddles and the excitement of volleyball. What kind of creative ways have your program kind of tried to grab that energy of big momentums, but also, you know, you have to keep that 6-foot barrier?
Right. It's hard. It's been hard, but I can tell you it hasn't been as hard as I thought it was going to be. You know, I wasn't even sure we'd still be playing at this point of the season, and the girls and everybody's doing just a great job of wearing their masks when they're supposed to wear their masks, and just separating when we can. I can tell you one thing that we've done differently, and we kind of got it from the college game, is they allowed us this year to stand up on the bench, and they said to stand up to kind of be able to socially distance a little bit, but I kind of took that as an advantage as far as, too, you keep your girls warm that way, too. And if you watch college games, down at the end of the bench, they're constantly standing up. So kind of stole that from them and said, hey, if they're going to let us stand up, we're all going to stand up. You know, why not be ready instead of sitting down, you know, be ready to go. And I think it improves the girls as far as focusing on the game. The girls that are on the sideline are focused a lot more. It also improves their body language because, you know, sometimes it's hard when you come off and you didn't make the best play in the world or something maybe not so great has happened. And if you have to sit down, sometimes you tend to slouch whether you want to or not. But when you're standing up, I think it's just it sounds little, but I think it's been a good thing for our team to kind of keep them more engaged in the game, to have them all kind of standing, and I can kind of work my way down there and talk to them a lot. So that's one thing that we've done that they've changed as far as the rules go for this year.
Another thing that they've kind of brought in from the college game that I really like, I hope it stays, is they rotate balls in. It speeds up the game. What kind of things have you seen now that the game's speeded up a little bit, that the servers don't have to wait to chase balls down or whatever it may be? They just rotate a new ball in. What kind of changes does that bring to the high school level?
Yeah, it's like you said, it definitely speeds it up. You know, and there's times when you want that to happen. You know, if we're on a run, you want that ball there right away. If the other thing is happening and, you know, we feel like we just can't, you know, we don't have momentum and the other team's got momentum, you almost want the ball to get there a little bit slower. So it has definitely sped up the game a little bit, which like I said, sometimes that can be a good thing and sometimes not so much, depending on how you're playing.
Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and talk about South Range Volleyball, and we look forward to hearing from you again, and good luck this week against Lakeview.
Hey, thanks for having me, Anthony. Good talking to you.
All right, good. Bye, Coach.
We'll see you later.
That was TJ Irons, head coach of South Range Volleyball, joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. We'll take one more break, come back, and wrap this one up on a Monday edition of Running Point on YSN.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Armstrong Local Programming has always delivered an exclusive and unique perspective on the very best events your region offers. High school sports, community events, parades, all your favorite shows from Armstrong are now calling the Neighborhood Channel their home.
Watch Out and About, Locally Speaking, and many other great local shows right here on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Find out everything that the Neighborhood Channel has to offer at ArmstrongNeighborhood.com. Spirit, town pride, local communities. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Wrapping up a Monday edition of Running Point on YSN, Anthony Hartwig with you all day. Want to have some house cleaning before we go. Want to say thank you to the coaches that joined us today on Running Point. We had the head volleyball coach at Salem, Casey Costal, earlier in the day. Then we had Jody Bartlett, head coach of Austintown Fitch. We had Boardman head coach Alyssa Birch. And then we just talked to South Range head coach TJ Irons. And I want to just say that all those coaches are also teachers. So we definitely thank them for taking time out of their day. Coach Costal and Coach Bartlett both called us on their planning period. So taking this time to talk about their program, talk about their players was phenomenal from them, and we thank them for their time. Some house cleaning before we go. Playoffs are coming up this weekend, and we are going to be set for that. We are ready to go. We are going to be dedicated to getting to as many games, if not all the games, as possible for playoff time. And it's the same thing as last week. $9.99 gets you access to every playoff game. Make sure you buy it on the channel of the team that you want the 25% to go to, because we are still giving 25% to the coach, to the school that you buy from. So we're still doing that. That hasn't changed. And we're excited for playoff time. We're going to be the only show in town. So this is the only place that you're going to give live playoff football, and we're excited to bring it to you on YSN. So that'll do it. Power Hour is up next. Don't go anywhere. I'm Anthony Hartwig. Ron will be back tomorrow. Until then, this was a Monday edition of Running